shit. Okay, thank fuck. Okay. I was a little worried there. Alright. I thought the Action Man debate was going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern. He said 9 p.m. Central. So we got about an hour to kill before the debate. That works out pretty much perfectly. Smash you on your head, donate tillers. Thought this was funny. Joey Swoll video. This is not a good idea.
Oj, nu flyger vi.
Excuse my language, but what the fuck did you two think was going to happen? And why are you even doing this in the first place? You do know that you're in the gym to work out, not to disrespect equipment and use it for target practice. And you aim at the one glass thing in the gym that you could break. And then you arrogantly take this selfie in front of the mirror that you broke to post on social media as if this is something to be proud of. But hey, anything for views, right? I mean, your video got you millions.
If I was the gym owner, I'd sue that guy. Make him pay back the cost of the mirror and shit, and see if you could also get like some other charges, because that's just like, if that hit somebody, like, what a fucking obnoxious twat.
And millions of views. Good for you. Even if it's at the expense of a mirror that's broken, the owner of this gym, the equipment, the members. As long as you get your views, that's all that matters. You know, I really hope that this gym sees this and makes you pay for that mirror and then kicks your ass out. You need to.
Yeah, I kind of hate these obnoxious TikTok twats. They just think they can do whatever the fuck they want at anybody's expense.
Bad. They had to move Peggy to a completely different unit in the jail. So you know how we just saw Peggy arrested again for the second time and thrown in jail for beating up that poor girl, holding her hostage like an asshole. All why? Because she went out and showed her tits and he couldn't handle it. Well, remember when that happened? The other two clown assholes that work for him, Jose, the little bitch, his security guard, they sat there during that whole time when the girl was getting beat up and they didn't do shit to stop it. In fact, they stopped her from calling the cops and from leaving. When that happened, we were all wondering, you know, what happened to these two assholes? Why didn't they get charged? Well, it turns out one, I think, ended up turning into a rat, and the other thrown in jail, the same one as Peggy, charged with 2 felonies. And you know what I was thinking? At least those two assholes are together again, and they can keep that pegging in the
people that troll you in chat would probably react like this. I mean, at least I admit when I troll you in chat. You know it's me, Killian Titan.
Game bread. You didn't think I would notice you.
How you doing?
I'm doing better now. I know that you the nigga that be calling me Diddy Booty Jackson in chat.
Only sometimes. But not now. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, not in my face, huh?
It's a great night.
It was a great night.
Thank you for putting up such a great night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How I feel to have Diddy Booty Jackson in your motherfucking face, nigga.
Feels kind of good. What?
Hey, chat, this is Game Bread. Motherfucker be trolling me and fucking
Hang together.
He clearly didn't take personal offense to it. So, thanks for the donation, Smash You on your head.
family. Wait until I show you this shit.
Just want to know about Megan. Doesn't everybody want to know about Megan? Women are very complex, but not. You see what I'm saying? Megan's a great person. She literally is her energy's infectious. I really love her to death.
So it's funny, you know how we never see Peggy all this time on social media? He never shuts his mouth. He's always flapping his mouth like a little bitch, right? Never shutting up, always getting himself into more trouble because of it. Well, for the first time in my life, I saw him like when I was in Catholic school, in choir, I was a good boy. I didn't open my mouth in church getting my communion. Well, this is the first time I saw it out of Wes, and you know why? He goes to court the next morning after his arrest, and he's thinking he's getting bail, right? And the judge, she looks at him, she goes, listen, Peggy, you know what? You look like a piece of shit, and for that, you ain't getting no bail, you asshole, and she denied it.
The only cure to your addictions and your drug use and your habits is discipline. It's discipline, that's it. When you get disciplined enough through your daily process, you empower yourself. You give yourself the power to choose.
42-year-old Wesley Watson stands before a judge after police say he severely beat his girlfriend of just a couple of months.
So we're here on 5 counts for Mr. Watson.
He had his own personal employees threatening her. He had his own personal employees oversee her to see what she was doing on the phone, Your Honor. I think there's even made reference to the victim that she effectively felt like she was being held.
I can guarantee you he's gonna have to take a plea deal, and it's not going to be particularly lenient.
Hostage. Your Honor, this is not the first or second time that violence has been alleged against Mr. Watson.
Police say he wouldn't let the victim leave the home after all of this took place. Now he remains in jail tonight, saddled with a $115,000 bond.
So after that happened, I wanted to find out, how is this asshole handling jail this time? How is he doing? How is he taking it? Not that kind of way. Because we know he was on so many street drugs, right? But besides that, steroids, copious amounts of steroids, trenbolone, testosterone, HGH, right? All this shit. And he never comes off. So we know you come off that alone, you become a big bitch. So imagine coming off all those things, plus street drugs, alcohol. This guy must have turned into a little bitch in prison, right? Because I ended up talking to 2 employees, former employees who worked for Wes, right? And they stayed in the house with him because Wes is a little bitch. He doesn't let his employees leave either. He wants them all there around him all the time. He said one day, John, he goes, I woke up and...
That's usually a sign of antisocial personality disorder, needing to have somebody around you all the time. Sverige has that, where he cannot be left alone. He needs somebody around him all the time. That's why he, anytime a girl breaks up with him, he takes, massive personal offense to it. And immediately, as soon as he can, he gets with another girl.
And I saw Peggy sitting on the kitchen table with a mountain of that creatine and his face stuck in it like Al Pacino from Scarface. They said to me, they go, John, I've never seen a white man do that shit and not drop dead. So this asshole was taking a lot of shit. Well, I ended up speaking, because I wanted to find out how this asshole's doing with all that withdrawals in the jail, right? I ended up speaking to 2 people, multiple people, who are in the jail who could tell me the story of what's going on with him. And they told me, they go, John, listen, when he got here, all those inmates, most of them knew who he was and they weren't having any of his shit, and they put him in his place like a pussy boy from the moment he walked in. He's sitting there, he's in the corner, keeping to himself and going through crazy withdrawals. In fact, the withdrawals were so bad, they had to move Peggy to a completely different unit in the jail that handles people coming off drugs, so that way they can get accustomed to how their regular life is going to be. Because I was thinking, all these things he was doing, all these drugs in him during the...
That would explain the unhinged behavior.
Crime during this whole ordeal, he wasn't sober. So imagine how he felt the day he woke up, sobering up, and realizing how bad he f***ed up his life.
When I wake up today, I don't want to do that shit. I don't want to go down that painful road again. That road was painful as to me. For years, I woke up and said, never again, not today. And then something would trigger me to where I would get weak and I would choose the negative route over the positive one. But now, I don't let triggers faze me because I'm strong enough. Because I wake up in the morning and my first thought is something that just empowers me that my life is worth it, I'm worth it, and then I prove it with action and build that baseline discipline up through my daily small acts. So when my weakness comes about, I don't fall victim to my old vices, the drugs, the negative shit, the anger. I don't fall victim to it no more. I've done so good on my anger lately too. I'm so proud of it.
Now going back to the day the crime happened, you guys remember in the police report it said Jose, the bitch butler. He didn't do anything to help the girl. He was watching, and so was that bitch security guard, not letting the girl leave when she tried to. The defendant further told the security guard, make sure she doesn't run, and had him stand by the door in an effort to keep
No notification. That's interesting. I uploaded a video and I did 2 streams. I think YouTube doesn't give notifications if you have like a 3rd upload or something. Fucking stupid. What's like, what do they want you to do? It's just so dumb. Can't say I'm excited for the Action Man debate because people are telling me he's a retard, but we'll see.
the victim from leaving the residence. So we're all wondering, why weren't these 2 assholes charged? Well, Jose, he was arrested this morning because he found out there was a warrant out for his arrest, but he didn't know what the charges were at the time. So he was all excited, thinking, you know, now I'm going to be part of the cool club. I'm going to jail with Peggy, right? Well, he says, you know what? I'm going to do it in style, in class, because I'm proud of doing all these things. So he goes, gets in Peggy's car, has the same chauffeur take him to the jail to turn himself in.
All right, this is some serious shit. If you had an active warrant right now for your arrest, would you rather get picked up in the cop car or just pull up to the jail in that Mansfield Phantom? I'm like, I think I already know my option and what I picked.
This guy's a dumbass.
But it changed real quick because he wasn't so proud when they ended up charging him for 2 felonies. One for false imprisonment.
Shit gets real quick.
Great news, VG Iowa is considering a bill cracking down on animal torture as a crime.
Also in Iowa, animal advocacy groups are arguing for action on a bill to make animal torture a felony on the first offense. Now, Iowa State House has already passed this legislation, but it has since stalled in the state Senate. Abigail Curtin brings us the story of one puppy who advocacy groups say shows why this measure is needed. But just as a warning, some of the video you see may be disturbing or tough to watch.
Meet Ember. Like any other puppy, she's eager to make new friends and chew on squeaky toys. But despite her happy and trusting demeanor, Animal Rescue League CEO Tom Colvin says her history is horrific.
To us, it's as bad as it gets.
Just weeks ago, Des Moines police rescued her from a domestic violence investigation, and the ARL began caring for her. Her eye was injured. 2 bones in her leg were broken.
Jeez.
Her jaw was fractured and in a further stage of healing than her other injuries, meaning the abuse she endured happened more than once.
It is horrific.
The man accused of hurting the puppy, Sean.
Yeah, death penalty. Kill him. Doesn't deserve to live. You're a special piece of shit if you abuse a cute little puppy like that. Like, you're an especially sick, disgusting human being. These people should just get the fucking death penalty. You don't deserve to live. Like, look how fucking wonderful and sweet this little dog is, and just happy and innocent, even after enduring that horrific abuse. Like, if you can just hurt an animal like that for no fucking reason, you don't deserve to live. There should be the death penalty imposed on these people.
Man accused of hurting the puppy, Sean Stanton, is facing an aggravated misdemeanor animal abuse charge. He's also accused of hurting a woman. But it's cases like Embers that have the ARL urging lawmakers to advance a bill that would make animal torture like this a felony on the first offense.
We feel that she's actually almost the poster pet for the need for this particular law.
Earlier this year, a similar bill passed through the Iowa House, and while it survived all funnel weeks thus far, it's been placed on a list of bills labeled unfinished business. That means Senate lawmakers would have to schedule further discussion, or else nothing happens, something Colvin says is unacceptable.
Iowa would again stand out in the country as the only state that doesn't have a first offense felony animal torture law on the books. That's downright embarrassing.
It's not just Colvin that wants to do the protecting, and it's not just Ember that needs the protection. He says it's all companion animals, including little Raspberry here. But he says that protection isn't possible without legal action. Iowa currently ranks 45th out of 50 for animal protection laws, according to the Animal Legal Defense Fund. I reached out to Senate lawmakers to see if they plan on taking up the bill, but did not hear back. Colvin says if nothing happens,
we do not have the tools necessary to go forward and really bring somebody that could do this to justice.
There could be another Ember.
The Animal Rescue League plans to lobby for a bill at the Iowa State's House, and that's on Thursday.
Hopefully that goes through. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Remember when Durian Rider called you an e-beggar? And that you wouldn't debate him because you don't want to face him. Oh, you a black BTW.
That's nice. Thanks for the donation. I love N-words.
We should not be spending billions of dollars to drop bombs on elementary schools in Iran.
Haha. Have fun being a gay retard. Thanks for the donation, AFAL.
This is Donald Trump's reckless war of choice. We weren't attacked first, so why are we spending billions of dollars on a war no American wanted?
That's great. Go be a gay retard somewhere else. Thanks for the donation, stupid.
What's it going to be like when your biggest troll, me, meets up with you? I think I'll make you look tiny and mog the shit out of you. Then we can talk about who's smashing who on whose head.
I don't think so. Thanks for the donation, though, 21st.
And people wonder why you hate humans so much, VG.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo.
If I were that dog, I would be racist after that and never trust a black person ever again.
That's understandable. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
The other, very serious one, another felony, for tampering with a victim or witness, okay, which means you're harassing or threatening a victim or witness so they don't tell the story. So now thinking about this, you know what I think they planned on doing? Well, Jose, shortly before he turned himself in, was on a FaceTime call with Peggy, and he's sitting there smiling. They're enjoying themselves, it looks like, right? I think they were planning on paying off the girl or threatening her to not show up to court, not press charges, and then thinking that he may get off and get out of jail. Their plan, the little bitches, didn't work. You know why? The security guard, there's no warrant out for him. He's not been arrested, there's no charges for him, and he was there. Why is he getting off? Well, what's Peggy's biggest nightmare in life? He hates rats, right? Well, I think that security guard ratted on him, ratted on Jose, so he doesn't have to go to jail, and Wes's biggest nightmare came true because the security guard is in charge and he's free roaming the streets, and Peggy and Jose are sitting in the cells like butt buddies together again.
Really believe she genuinely loves you. You guys, these people who are so skeptical about like women and love and connection, it's because you so like there's no way I don't believe women love me. Like, have you seen me? Like, I'm the shit. Like, I don't believe women love you. You've done nothing and you're nobody. I mean, so I don't believe they would love you. I mean, you don't love yourself yet. You haven't done shit yet. So it's a projection of who you are when you don't believe a woman could love someone. If a woman's gonna love anybody, are you kidding me? They're calling you out.
Kidding him?
I'm kidding. Dude, I'm the top of the top of the top of the top. I've seen me. If you saw me drive by, even though you hate on me on
This guy is like just terrible with women. The last chick he was fucking dating was a single mom. And she was only hanging around him for his money. Like, it's the most horrible, fucking toxic, like, best you could do at the time type of fucking relationship you could fucking ever imagine. Literally dating some bum-ass single mom who is just using you for money. Like, that just sounds like a fucking nightmare scenario. And then this guy's like, oh yeah, fucking women love me. Yeah, that's why you're dating a fucking single mom that you have to give all this money to.
I'm 28 years old and I'm an Amazon driver and I deliver to these houses thinking how the fuck do so many retards own homes while I'm stuck living with roommates?
I don't know, man. It's kind of fucked. Especially in Canada, dude. Unless you're a boomer, you just ain't owning a fucking home. Thanks for the donation, Son Goku. $21 wins the debate. N-word, you said it was 9 p.m. Yeah, I made a mistake. It's at 9 p.m. Central, so that'll be 10 p.m. Eastern. I thought it was 9 p.m. Eastern, but yeah, so like 35 minutes. Oh, thanks for the donation, 21st. Thanks for the membership in Kindu. Goodwill refunded me for that e-bike, said it was supposed to be listed as pickup only. I see. I have a girlfriend. Her name's Pat.
here, you'd be like, oh my God, who is that? Like, even though you hate on me on camera because you used to. But if I saw me drive by, I would do the same thing. Oh my God, who is that? How could you not? Do you see what people look like and what they do? This little man, black Man Street Phantom, that thing looks like.
Yeah, Song Oku, it's because number 1 you're black, number 2 you didn't get into a high-paying career path, and maybe number 3 you don't put effort into getting into a higher-paying career, so what do you expect to happen?
Yeah, people used to buy houses right out after high school. So, like, housing prices are just overblown as fuck. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
Like it's on the ground and shit. We're just sliding through.
And babe, you know this new studio move? Do you know what kind?
What a massive dumbass.
Agreed, it's simply strange how so many of these Christian nut jobs have jobs if they never went to public school.
Yeah, it is pretty weird. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Instead of complaining and whining like you and Richard just did about how it's fucked that people have better paying careers than you, instead of having that communist mindset, spend time starting a business or learning how to code or something.
Learning how to code is a complete waste of time at this point. You ain't getting any fucking jobs coding, and in a few years, the entire industry is just going to be cooked. They're just going to use AI for everything.
No one trains harder than
that
wrestlers.
anaerobic stuff, man. That's, my goodness. I mean, what's harder than wrestling? I don't think there's
The
anything.
hardest sport in the world. That's the true cornerstone of martial arts.
Yeah.
The ability to take a guy down. A lot of people that thought like jiu-jitsu was the only way, and then the elite wrestlers got in there. The Mark Kerrs, the Mark Colemans, and then Randy. A bunch of these guys got in there, and then they realized, like, if a guy could just take you down and beat the out of you from the top, there's not a whole lot you could do about it. Even high school wrestling. I remember wrestling in high school, and I had already done martial arts, but I was like, I'd never trained that hard. It carried me over into my Taekwondo career because I realized, like, oh, I'm leaving a lot on the table. Like, I'm not training like these guys are.
Right, yeah,
so I
yeah.
started running. I started adding all these things to my training that I wasn't doing before. We were sparring hard. We were doing hard rounds. You'd get tired, but it was not the same as what we were doing in wrestling. The hardest sport in the world. No.
Wrestling's based. Yeah, Dan Henderson is pretty, like, dude, he was fighting for so fucking long. It's nuts. I don't know what the fuck that was.
I'm Bob Height, and I'll be your host as we unfold on your TV set the exciting story of the annual Strawberry Festival and Hillsborough County Fair. Who could pass up this treat, done to perfection by some of Plant City's finest homemakers? And, of course, we couldn't have a strawberry ball without strawberries. Just look at this and let your taste buds do the rest. The new king is finally crowned. Heavy, heavy is the crown for this serious monarch, who won't be disturbed in discharging his duties by a beautiful queen, but he'll be different as a teenager. Florida's world famous for pretty girls, and here's another bevy to enhance our reputation. Say, he's certainly in the spirit.
Right now, we are judging the decorated diaper contest in the strawberry theme.
One entire afternoon in the entertainment tent is the annual search for the best decorated diaper. Media tent.
Festival.
The way you just complain about people making more money than you, Richard, instead of being proactive made me almost think I was watching a Code Pink stream. What a brainless steak from you. You just like to complain, don't you? Well, we already knew that.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Thanks for the donation, 21st.
Plus, you usually need a permit to start a business anyway.
Yeah, usually. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
For example, Richard doesn't put an ounce of effort into growing his channel anymore and his livestream viewership has been dwindling for years. He got complacent and comfortable with barely scraping by from the donations. He could have grown his channel.
That's that's great. Thanks for the donation, 21st. I gotta go pee-pee. I'll be right back. Just gotta take a whiz. Oh, God. Damn, I am tired from that workout.
Have you seen these shorts before?
Slap him then. Do something about it. Stop it, motherfucker. Stop it.
Lord have mercy.
Eat your vegetables. Help me! Help me! Rap! Do something! Do something, Rap!
Yeah. Nate Diaz is cool. Thanks for the donation, Meat Shield.
If Richard were smart, he would take advantage of this little twink Tyson Hockley and enthusiastically get him in contact with other streamers, YouTubers, etc. Start making long-form videos again, and put actual effort and work in. But he won't.
Yeah, I told you I'm gonna make videos. Fucking relax, shut up. Thanks for the donation, jackass. See, Dodo donates $2. Name one other country with this kind of capability. Name one that can't. Name one you can't. The USA has the best equipment, best military by far. Nothing comes close.
This tiny helicopter played a key role in rescuing the U.S. aviator who was trapped in Iran for 2 days after his fighter jet got shot down. It's called an AH-6 Little Bird, and it's flown by Army Special Operations Forces.
We took 3 helicopters over there, which were very strongly used and couldn't have lived without them. They performed unbelievably well.
Several Little Birds flew up to the mountain where the airman was hiding in a crevice, according to U.S. officials. At least one of them was able to land on the mountain to rescue him. But before that could happen, the Little Birds were flown inside Iran in C-130 transport planes. The blades on the Little Birds are designed to fold, so they can be packed up like this and loaded onto airplanes. That enables them to be deployed.
I'd love one of these helicopters. I'd like to get a helicopter license one day. But I really dig the Little Bird helicopters. They're so cool. Apaches are goated, but like these are cool too.
Deployed quickly around the world. President Trump praised the helicopters in a news conference.
They came off the plane, and these guys had them. The rotors were off. They rebuilt these helicopters in less than 10 minutes.
Space is tight, but one Little Bird can transport 6 people. The aircraft can fly 150 miles per hour and stay in the air for about 2 hours, according to Boeing. The Little Birds can execute a range of missions, from attacking targets to inserting and extracting special operations forces. The use of these helicopters is usually very secretive, but they were spotted operating near Venezuela in the fall, and then approaching a Russian-claimed oil tanker before it was seized at the beginning of the year. Now we have confirmation they were used in Iran, but that's not the end of the story. After the Little Birds rescued the airmen, they flew back to the airstrip where they had originally landed. But the C-130s couldn't take off in the mud, so the U.S. destroyed the Little Birds and the C-130s to prevent the Iranians from getting their hands on them.
We blew them up to smithereens because we had equipment on the planes that frankly we'd like to take, but I don't think it was worthwhile spending another 4 hours there taking it off.
The U.S. had a backup plan, and the airmen and other troops were picked up by a mysterious aircraft that officials are declining to discuss.
Cool. That's cool.
Why don't we go try to have a democracy in China?
So I've been in China for 25 years, and I can tell you that there is almost no interest in democracy in China, because for democracy to exist in China, for democracy to happen in China, you would need to have people who respected human rights, individual liberty, who had empathy, who believed in rule of law. And the reality is that in China, the system is set up so that the ultimate objective is to become a bureaucrat. That's what all Chinese people aspire to.
Oh, aspirationally, meaning coming up, you want to be a bureaucrat one day.
Exactly. And the higher
This guy is just remarkably full of shit.
you climb the bureaucracy, the better, because traditionally China is an empire, and the way you survive an empire is to become a civil servant, and that's why Chinese work so hard in school, because they want to pass that civil service examination to become a bureaucrat, so then they can provide guarantees and protection to their family.
This guy is just such a fucking, like, he just blabs nonsense. Why is anybody listening to this fucking idiot? Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
BTW, I never understood why you always need a permit to start a business anyway. It seems a bit totalitarian if you ask me.
It's just liberal overregulation. You know, that's all it is. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Dodo $90 more U.S. military might read. Secret never before used CIA tool that helped find airmen. If your heart is beating, we'll find you. Ghost Murmur. Long-range quantum magnetometry to find electromagnetic fingerprint of human heartbeat. What the fuck? That sounds like some Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 shit. That is crazy. That's bizarre. I've never heard of anything like that. Weird. Oh. That's funny. Gum Gum came to sit on my lap right when we started watching kitties. Maybe he likes the kitty content. Hmm? You like the kitty content, Gum Gum? My goodness. Mwah. Love you so much, Gum Gum. That was an awkward interaction. Fucking Greta Thunberg.
The President of the United States just said that a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. And no one is...
Yeah, and they literally just agreed to a ceasefire.
reacting. This speaks for itself. What the fuck is anyone even doing at this point? We have normalized genocide, total annihilation of an
Yeah, and they agreed to a ceasefire.
entire people, the systematic destruction of the biosphere which we are all depending on to survive, and that corrupt, racist war criminals can act with complete impunity. But even though we have allowed far too much so far, it is not too late to say stop. If we don't, we shouldn't fucking be able to call ourselves.
You know, I'm starting to think she never had autism. She's just like a fucking idiot. Like, that could happen, right? Like, just being stupid, it has to have some overlap with autism. I think she was misdiagnosed. She's just a fucking dumbass. Well, thanks for the donation, Dodo. My name is Bitcher, donate $2, ready to admit Trump has no idea what he's doing, and this 2-week ceasefire is just another example where he chickens out, claims victory, completely contradicting the need for any ceasefire, just like he did with all the on and off again tariffs. The tariff stuff just seems like simple corporate corruption. He has not had the best track record when it comes to negotiating. You can just look at the whole, his whole handling of Afghanistan. That was a complete fucking mess. So, yeah, It's easy to play armchair expert. Like, I have no idea what's actually going on behind the scenes or how much Trump actually has a say in any of this shit and who's telling him what. But it does seem funny. Thanks for the donation. My name is Bitchard. Donate $2. This is the 10-point plan Trump said was a workable deal and canceled the 8 p.m. strikes over. Trump is sidestepping Israel to agree to negotiate on this insane basis. What the fuck? Iran says it has forced the U.S. to accept its 10-point plan. Commitment to non-aggression, Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, acceptance of Iran's uranium enrichment, lifting all primary sanctions. Yeah, that literally sounds made up. I'm sure Iran will say a lot of things. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Ton donate $2. So, America has submitted defeat to Iran. No. What's going to happen now that American empire is no longer the superpower of the world? Even with the Strait of Hormuz open, the damage is already done by the U.S. Prices of everything will remain high. That's a cool story, dude.
Also autism capital, that's seriously that Asian guy's profile name.
Yeah, thanks for the donation, Dodo. Action Man just texted me. He needs 2 more days. Tell him to do the debate now. Well, Mage No Tellers, can they be worth reacting? 18-year-old considered daddy? Obviously not. Well,
He's pushing 175-pound dumbbells. Okay, borderline 200. This is insane, dude. You tell me, does that look like this is natty or not? Is this consistent with longevity and being...
this guy is annoying. I have no interest in listening to him. He's not natural, and he's also very overweight. There's a few fitness influencers who've done this sort of thing that are also fairly young. There's this there's this fetish that usually gay dudes have. It's kind of what fucking what's his name? Who's the ex-vegan gay fucktard who got super fat? Nikocado Avocado. There's like this weird fetish that I swear it's like only gay people have it. They're into just getting really large and fat and like bloat maxing. So that's what it is. Like, you can look at the comments and shit on his social media. I don't know if he filters out some of them, but I remember he's lean now. Did he actually get lean? Yeah, he's not. Well, Nicocado's lean. That's what you meant. Yeah, this is like some weird... This just appeals to some like weird gay sexual fetish thing. I don't know if he does that intentionally, or if this is just some like algorithm thing where he just noticed the bigger he got and stuff, the more attention he got, sort of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of weird crossover with sexual fetishes in the fitness industry. That's why you see some like really young kids kind of blow up, like Tristan Lee. There's that other kid that Larry Wheels did a video with, and a lot of people think he's on steroids now. He was that like 14-year-old kid or something that was getting into fitness. There's a lot of gay dudes that are into fitness and stuff, obviously. Oh yeah, there he is. That's the guy I'm talking about. He does collabs with them all the time. Yeah, so he's probably on steroids right now. But yeah, I've noticed a few trends. There's like this weird fetish for very young kids taking their shirts off and flexing. That's what Eric English was doing. And I'm sure at that age he had no intention for, you know, any of that to be sexual. But I can guarantee you there's like weird, fucked up gay dudes who are just jerking off to him. I don't see why anybody would have an interest in following that Eric English kid. He's not physically remarkable for a teenager. And again, he's doing the bloat maxing thing. This guy, I've seen a lot of comments that had a very strong sexual undertones. So that's all it is. The fucking diamond gym thing, that's a sexual fetish. It's like this weird domination thing where like people are into getting yelled at and humiliated and crap. So that's all the shit is. It's like brain rot, stupid horse shit. I'm not watching this though. Like, this guy has the most boring, dry, stupid fucking commentary of all time. Thanks for the donation, Will Mage.
You don't always need a permit to start a business. You don't even need to always make a corporation in order to start a business. Dodo's never heard of a sole proprietorship apparently. And it also only takes like $25 of filing fees to make an LLC, lol.
That's nice. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
Richard the First, I'm not kidding, you still have these communist kind of views on things when it comes to business, making money, etc. Like you ironically just blamed liberal governance, but the truth is that you're just a commie who is looking for anyone to blame.
Yeah, thanks for the donation, 21st.
I painted a portrait of Penn, drew myself at Gigs Carnival, drew the moment Penn showed up, I censored that other drawing.
That is a pen. Okay. All right. And that is a pen. Okay, thanks for the donation, Nora Wib.
Remember this?
Remember when they used to put effort into things and stuff was like cool and they had unique ideas? Thanks for the donation, eh?
When is the debate?
Apparently it's not happening. I didn't realize this, but apparently the guy's a ketamine addict. So he said he's going to need a couple days, according to Tyson. And he just decided to cancel last minute. So it might never happen. Who knows? Thanks for the donation, nigga. This cat is very cuddly. Look at him. Oh my god, he is so nice. Gummy, why are you so nice? This is a nice cat. He is nice. Just wants to cuddle. Look at his little arm. My goodness. What a good handsome. You're so handsome, Gum Gum. I love this cat so much. He's my little baby. He's always gonna be my baby. Let me see. I really want to jerk off. Wish I could just fap on stream. Kind of wanted to jerk off all day, but I was busy.
Did Greta Thunberg just use the word fuck? Hey language, Greta, you're only 23.
She still looks like she's 12. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. Dodo donating $2. What's your thoughts on the possibility of Tucker actually being a undercover giving intel on Iranians to CIA? Fucking no chance.
Preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report.
Yeah, there's absolutely zero fucking chance. I've seen that clip. He might be lying about some stuff. Israel has bombed a Jewish synagogue in Tehran. The Rafin, yeah, completely destroyed. Great. That's wonderful.
AlphaFold really isn't about AI. A massive fraction of the success there is the protein data bank. So it's X-ray diffraction, it's NMR, it's cryo-EM, and the several $1 billion that was spent obtaining whatever it's 180,000 odd protein structures. It's basically the story of we spent many, many decades obtaining protein structure just by going out and looking very hard at the world experimentally, and then we fitted a nice model at the end of it, and that was like a tiny fraction of the entire investment. But it's definitely not, that's a story of data acquisition.
Yeah.
Principally, it's not only, the AI bit is very, very impressive. It's quite remarkable, but it is only a small part of the total story.
All right, thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Son Goku, if you're still there, last thing I will say. Listen to Richard and stay poor forever, or listen to me and never stop working to either enter a higher paying career or cycle through business ventures until one pays you well enough and be better off.
I'll work harder then. Thanks for the donation, 21st. My name is Bitcher Donatellers. I think John Bolton, who served in Trump's first term as National Security Ambassador, is right. Regime change is the right move. But thinking it can happen like it did with Maduro's foolish start at 625.
The president has made a lot of threats but hasn't followed through.
Closing the Strait of Hormuz, the logic is change the regime. I don't think there is anybody in this regime at the level of Ghalibaf and dozens of others, frankly, that is any different in their fanatical Islamicist ideology that would treat with the United States. And I think this frantic idea to find Iran's equivalent of Delcy Rodriguez was a fool's errand to begin with. None of these people are going to make any change in policy. if for no other reason at this moment than they're in fear of their own life from their compatriots still in Tehran. So the deadline runs out on April the 6th for the negotiations, if they've even taken place, other than sending notes through intermediaries, which you can parse the word negotiation. That's not negotiation to me.
If Iran gets to this missing American crew member before the U.S. does that change this war in your view?
Not at all. I mean, we're all concerned to get that crew member back. There's no question about it. I wouldn't want to see any American become a POW of this regime. But let's see what the situation is right now. Iran has now shot down 2 of our aircraft. Kuwait has shot down 3. This happens. It's unfortunate, and it's a propaganda victory for Iran only if we let it become one. This is something that.
Oh, and the left wing are definitely helping it become a propaganda victory. Like, nothing about that is unusual. And what's hilarious is, like, what, they're F-15s? Like, these are aircraft that were made in the fucking 1970s. And they're acting like it's some big, huge military victory for Iran. It's just fucking retarded.
Test our resolve, and we should have had a reserve of resolve before we started the war. And if the president or the White House are shaky because of this, then it indicates yet again that they had not thoroughly thought through what it meant to launch these attacks.
Does it undermine what the White House has been saying about how degraded Iran's capability is? I mean, the president said this week that Iran had no anti-aircraft equipment, that their radar was 100% annihilated.
Sure, it absolutely degrades White House credibility, and that's a self-inflicted wound by the White House, not by the Iranians. If you overstate what you've accomplished and evidence comes that shows that you've overstated, you look foolish.
Why do you think the president hasn't spoken about this on camera today? Does that stand out to you at all?
No, it sounds to me like he's probably back in a panic mode, wishing he could find a way to declare victory and get out of this war, regardless of whether or not he opens the Strait of Hormuz before he does it. I think that's a mistake too. I think that if there had been an effective decision-making process before the war started and these concerns were raised and they bothered the president, he had the option then not to initiate the attack. But apparently he was satisfied. Now if things are upsetting him that he either didn't think about or didn't pay any attention to in the run-up to the war, that's a problem for him, and therefore it's a problem for the country. But it was easily avoided and should have been avoided.
On the Strait of Hormuz, I mean, the president has gone from saying it's not America's problem, that U.S. allies should just take it, that it would be easy, this would open up naturally once the war is over. Now he said today, with a little more time, we can easily open it, take the oil, and make a fortune. It would be a gusher for the world. I mean, do you have any sense of what he plans to do with the Strait of Hormuz based on that?
No, I don't. But I'm not bothered because I don't think he does either. I think this is just more rhetoric, and I don't think it's helpful. We have an interest in the Strait of Hormuz being open because that region produces 20% of the world's oil, and it doesn't matter that we import very little of it ourselves because oil is priced in a global market. And anybody with their hand on the spigot on the Strait of Hormuz determined to turn it off is going to have a devastating effect on the world economy. That's why we became concerned about this region in the late 1970s, and that concern has not changed. Should others be doing more? Yes. I think the Europeans have made a big mistake in the way they reacted to Trump. But that doesn't lessen our interest in opening the strait for our partners, the Gulf Arabs, who are not getting any oil out. I think we should blockade Iranian vessels from getting out and apply pressure until they allow the Gulf Arabs to ship as well.
Is that something you believe the United States is capable of doing with the forces in the area right now?
They may need additional forces, but I think it beats trying to land on Karg Island or some of the other things that have been suggested. The Iran.
Did you know that the Democrat Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed, who said he didn't want to mention Khamenei death because people in Dearborn would be sad, has been around? They have been planning his run for a while.
Okay, today we have Dr. Abdul El Sayed. He's an epidemiologist, the former Democratic
Jeez. I had no idea Brian Tyler Cohen was such a fucking commie retard. Bro, that is embarrassing having that fucking Muslim whack job on your fucking channel promoting him. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
You can use the vehicles in Jack 2 to pull off some crazy out-of-bounds glitches. Right at the beginning of the game you can do a series of glitches to skip 2/3 of the game. Last night I did it for fun, but then I had to start a new playthrough, lol.
I didn't know that. I've never looked into any of the Jack glitches. I'm sure speedrunners take advantage of that. I know for the first game, people don't like speedrunning that because the loading the levels, it can only go so fast, so they programmed a thing where Jack would trip and fall if you move too quickly. Yeah, but never looked into any of the glitches. Thanks for the donation, Non-Wib.
When is the Durian Rider podcast? He said you're doing a podcast with him. When did you decide on? If you didn't decide, then go email him now, you fucking lazy piece of shit. I can't believe you ever managed to get through a workout, you're so fucking lazy.
We'll do it soon, okay? Jesus fucking Christ. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
21st, I know there are some exceptions, but usually it's required to have a permit to start a business, especially if you want to start a business that sells food or drinks, in which almost always requires a vendor's permit.
Yeah, thanks for the donation, Dodo. Be kind of cool having a donut shop. Seems like it'd be sort of fun. Dodo Donatillers, there's another Democrat running. This is the primary we're talking about. Yet people like Brian Tyler Cohen, Destiny, the Young Turks, and everyone else is all promoting this guy.
So a Democrat Senate candidate in Michigan is facing criticism this morning for planning a rally with anti-Israeli podcaster Hassan Piker, who says America...
He's a fucking communist. He is a fucking Muslim communist. Like the Democratic Party is infested with wacko commies. It's a huge fucking problem. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Apparently this guy does Fent too.
Well, maybe when he debates me, we can catch another overdose and he dies. Thanks for the donation, nigga. My name is Bitcher, donated $2. I'm with you on these far lefties being trash, but I have no idea how anyone can confidently support the Iran mission when it's being led by the biggest fucking imbecile ever. John Bolton has also said that Trump can't even find Ukraine on a map. Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. Trump's a fucking retard. He's not the president we want, but he's the president we need right now. So, Especially with Kamala Harris out of the picture, I do not feel confident with any Democratic leadership. They're spineless dumbasses. And dumbass in a way where it's like you're just leading the pathway to communism and just more fucked retardation. Whereas with Trump, you just got, you know, good old school, you know, Republican capitalist corruption, which isn't nearly as bad. Thanks for the donation, though. My name is Bitchard. This kitty is having a nice relax. Dude. I was planning on training earlier in the day, but I had to go out and get groceries. Especially with dieting, holy fuck, working out just knocks me on my ass. I need like a 3-hour nap after I fucking train. Oh, dude, I'm just fucking exhausted right now.
Fuentes is not a fan of white girl music. What say you?
I mean, Taylor Swift is fucking garbage.
Shmooze sent $20. Amazing. Please put out another Spotify playlist. Give us your best white girl anthems.
Fuck you. I don't have any white girl anthems, you fucking faggot pussy. I don't have any white girl anthems. Literally kill yourself. I put out a playlist once a year, and that is when I do it. And it's going to come out in September or October. Okay? You got the yearly playlist. Now you want more. Always more. Always extractive. Always in framing, extracting. I can never just be. I can never just be something in and of myself. Yeah, we'll see. I don't do white girl anthems, okay? I'm not a pussy like you. I'm not a beta male like you. The white girl anthem thing is something that needs to be addressed. You ever see these faggot gym bros? They go into the gym and they're like, look at me, I'm wearing an anime shirt and listening to Taylor Swift. People like that should be fucking killed on sight. Like, I wish a mass casualty incident would happen at their gym. Not actually, but I kind of do. Do you know what I'm talking about? This is not happening as much as it used to. But there was a time when all these gym faggots would go to the gym and they're like Converse and wearing an anime shirt. And they would say, I'm listening to Taylor Swift in the gym, but I'm a buff dude. Whoa, I've never met anyone like you before. You're really funny. Oh, I never heard that one before.
Yeah, Taylor Swift is trash. Thanks for the donation, nigga. Dodo donated $2. Let me see. The RGC is stationing heavy military equipment personnel vehicles inside a children's amusement park. Yep, sounds about right. Sounds about right. You might need to watch this one off stream, not sure. Here's what the Islamic regime was doing to peaceful protesters. This video isn't loading. There we go. Jesus Christ. Definitely gonna have to watch that off screen. That is fucking nuts.
degrees, but it's actually 8 degrees. It's and we always wouldn't mind putting our money into vegan businesses. But this was like a mince. It was really giving Ramly burger for some reason. Overall, it was delicious, but maybe a tad bit salty. I would definitely recommend this for a good vegan hot dog. Supermarket. The tofu croquette with sliced cheese in the. After that, we just walked around the city and we wanted.
Okay, thanks for the donation, Dodo. My name is Bitcher Donatellers. Kamala would have been infinitely better than Trump. We can acknowledge that Dems have a bunch of retards in the party while also acknowledging the entire Republican Party is led by a retard. Also, only ours ban things like lab-grown meat. That's disqualifying. It's not technically true. Who's that dumbass who had the stroke? Who was a Democrat? He wanted to ban lab-grown meat, too. Thanks for the donation, though. My name is Bitchard. Dodo donated $3.
A new New York Times piece gives us some insight into how Israel roped a dope like Trump to fight a devastating war against Iran on Israel's behalf, of course. Please take that disgusting war criminal off the screen. He makes me want to puke. I can't look at his face. Now, the New York Times has revealed what transpired during a Situation Room meeting that involved Benjamin Netanyahu, a foreign leader in our White House's Situation Room. That is not a normal thing. That is actually supposed to be considered very unusual. But when it comes to Israel, well, they're infiltrated in every single nook and cranny of our government, which is why our government serves a foreign country, not the American people. Before I get to the details into this, which are incredibly embarrassing for our commander-in-chief, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so first of all, they should make sure they clean up the Situation Room because there's no way the Israelis didn't plant bugs there. The minute you allow them into any room, and former CIA agents have said this, they plant bugs. Because they're not our allies. They've stolen all of our secrets. They've taken 300 billion from us, and they drove us into this war, as you're gonna see in this.
That's great. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
You should do a live stream where you show a small part of your penis through a hole in a piece of paper, not enough to get banned, but keep doing that on different parts of your penis, so we can use the stream to build a full image of your penis. Would it work?
That'd be pretty difficult. Not sure if that would work. Thanks for the donation, though, Nonweb. Like, you can just find my nudes. So, like, that's easier. Thanks for the donation, though, Nonweb.
Genetic Beast is doing political commentary now, lol.
Friends, it's T-Man, and been watching Melanie King and a bunch of other
I guess, other channels on this shit that's going on out in the world right now, right? So yeah, I'm aware about what Russia just said about Israel, but look at this. It looks like North Korea and China's getting involved now too as well. If America nukes Iran, dude, check this out.
Washington, if the U.S. gives Iran a 48-hour ultimatum and opens the gates of hell to it, look who we have to deal with now. As always, it is in your hands. So, yes, North Korea is now making threats that if anything happens,
To that point, but I didn't really think about it at the time. But now when I think about it, Iran, Middle East, here, all these things that are happening, you know, they talk these crazy things about Antichrist, whatever, but yeah, they were talking about World War III, and it looks like it's fucking happening. It's in the Middle East, bro. It might just...
I don't know why anybody would listen to Genetic Beast for political commentary. That guy is a literal retard. Thanks for the donation, nigga. Dude, this cat. I think his tired is infecting me. He's so cuddly and sleepy. Love this big cat butt. Oh, gum gum. Oh. He's my little chumbish. Look at him. I love my chumbish. How many calories did you consume per today? Let me see. $895 so far. And my last meal is just going to be a protein shake, so that'll be right at about 1,200. Oh man.
If you think Gummy is cute, just take a look at the world's smallest cat species.
I am so small.
Even if it can get them into trouble. Straight away, he puts his super senses through their paces. His eyes are 6 times.
I think Gummy's cuter, but he's very small. Gum's your big, cute, handsome man. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
I'm cooking dinner for my children right now. What's on my mind is my present to my children. They want to see snow. I live in Florida. I'm renting a truck and driving all the way up so these kids can see snow. I took days off of work for this, and it's not looking good, man. I can't even give my kids the one thing they ask me. Maybe it's a big ask, but I don't think so. What happened to the time in America where taking a vacation didn't literally fuck you? It fucks you, dude. You take a vacation and you're like, all right, I gotta be eating ramen for the next 2 months because I took my kids on fucking vacation. I have a mortgage. I have 2 children. I don't have a great job.
What children really need is they need to be loved. which is that's not a financial thing. They don't need to financially be loved. Okay, there are plenty of people who grew up poor and had a happy enough childhood because their parents were present. Okay, love and financials have nothing to do with each other. They're really not related. The other thing they need is to not be abused. Part of not being abused is not being in a public school surrounded by the Catholic Church gets so much.
We know what he was gonna say.
That's like not so much now. I mean, but in the 90s and 2000s, every stand-up comedian was like, "Oh, you're Catholic? That's good to child molestation." To whatever degree that's true, it's way worse in synagogues and fucking public schools. I think public schools have a 10x higher rate of child abuse than Catholic Church. So if you're gonna be scared of something.
I don't know how many kids get sexually abused in public school. I know bullying is certainly a big deal, but yeah, I don't know about that. I haven't seen the stats to suggest yeah, there's a higher rate of child abuse at public schools. I can't move because this cat. This is a good cat. He's sinking into my armpit. Getting all twisted up, Gum Gum. Getting all twisted. Here's my cat. He's a really good cat. Yeah, it looks like there's not going to be an Action Man debate, because he is a dumbass. I'll edit the title. Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry, Gum Gum. I gotta move you. Oh, he's a little noodle. It's a good little noodle. Okay, there we go. Now it says debate canceled. He gave some dumb excuse. I think he's probably just getting high. I think the debate was going to be about veganism. I gotta go piss. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna go tinkle. Oh, all right. That was a good tinkle. Oh, nothing like a good tinkle. Oh my god.
Will you make Gummy die a virgin? How often do you get him laid?
Yeah, I think he's gonna die a virgin. Thanks for the donation, Cummy.
It's hard to believe that the puny little rusty spotted cat is somehow in the same evolutionary tree as lions and tigers.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. It's funny how cats are literally like all the same.
Thing, you should be scared of public schools. What you need to provide for your children is protection.
I'm actually in agreement with him on this. Public schools are just fucking trash. They're so horrible. Oh my god. I had the worst experience going to public school. It is so remarkably awful. Just the kids there are... They're like Walmart kids, you know? Just trash, stupid fucking kids. I fucking hate them. Literally every school I went to, I would have been happy if the school burnt down with everybody fucking in it. So, maybe with the exception of some of the hot girls I liked, but other than that, yeah, I would have been perfectly happy if the entire school burnt down with everybody locked inside.
From pharmaceuticals, protection from rapists and bullies.
Are chickens your favorite dinosaurs? Yeah, they are.
And love, which is not a monetary thing. You just be a normal human being that's not a fucking freak, I guess. There's probably a book about it. I don't know how to teach you to not be a freak, but it's probably essential that you start learning how to do that. Stefan Molyneux has talked a lot about peaceful parenting, not hitting your children. I didn't know people hit their children until I started meeting like...
Agreed, thank goodness the Conservatives will ban it soon in favor of private school.
I don't think the Republicans are going to ban public school. Highly doubt that. I think I have no other option but to get zooted. Ah, damn it. Yeah, do you have a knife on you?
No, I'll grab you.
Yeah. Well, just scissors would work. Just scissors would work. Okay, thanks, dude. I hate it when you fucking try to rip open a package and it doesn't rip open properly, and then you need to get fucking scissors. That's annoying. Yeah, zooting. Thanks, dude. I really like the color of these scissors. Kind of reminds me of when a fresh exhaust pipe gets heated up for the first time, and then you see the pretty, like, blue and purpley colors. Nothing like a clean exhaust pipe getting heated for the first time. It's really nice.
Regular glop people, like people that look like some fucking cigarette lady. She looks like she should be compressed in a barrel into oil to lubricate train parts. That's probably the most useful, the most valuable use of this human biomass I'm looking at right here.
What's
Asking
your
me
record for
light.
most consecutive
You should
cum
be
ropes shot out of your dick in a row? Do you think it's more than 10?
Probably not 10. Maybe like 6 or 7. I've been able to come like twice a few times. Where you shoot out a bunch of ropes and then like you feel like you're not done and then you just like come again after a few more seconds. It's pretty awesome. Thanks for the donation, vegan faggot.
Lubricating a train as human goo. You fucking freak. But those people like that have had the shit beat out of them as children. This is probably a major reason why the world is this like throbbing, chaotic, violent organism from hell at times and in certain locations. That's one of my big regrets. Is I was at a Home Depot and there was a black guy and he was talking to his kid and he goes, "Am I gonna have to put hands on you?" This was before I was started lifting weights or boxing or anything, but I really wish I had given that guy a talking to. But I think this is probably a big reason why the world can at times appear to be so schizophrenic and cancerous. But yeah, all you have to do to be a good parent is protect your kids from that type of shit. I think that going overboard with the violin lessons and tutoring. What are you tutoring? Yeah, Vivek, Black Vivek. First of all the jobs that the Indians are coming here for, aren't they going to be done by AI anyway? Huh? I thought computers were so smart they could learn to code by now. Huh? That's weird. Why are we bringing in more software engineers when writing software is one of the low-hanging fruits of LLMs that's actually going to be here in 5 years? Easy. Why do you need 400,000 brownies? Why do you need all those brownies? What are you even preparing your kids for anyway? You're just some shithead. What do you know about what life's going to be like in 30 fucking years? My child is going to be a doctor. What if doctor is completely automated away and becomes like a customer service role in 30 years? The AI can diagnose medical conditions better than humans can.
Yeah, that's already a thing now. I can guarantee you at least family doctors, that's going to be just done by AI at some point. I think the only way it won't be, or it might be delayed, is just the pharmaceutical industry and all this shit. They like having complete control over like the supply of things. So I think they might be hesitant to replace doctors with AI for that reason. Because if you're just going to have AI do all this shit, now a lot of these big medical institutions, they're irrelevant because anybody could create like some AI platform. So there might be some lobbying that gets done, but yeah, it's going to happen eventually. Honestly, like literally just Googling, asking like Google AI or some shit, your symptoms, you're probably going to have a more accurate diagnosis than what your doctor can give you. Like, they're fucking idiots. Like, people massively overestimate how well-trained and intelligent doctors are. Like, they're absolute fucktards, dude. Especially when you have, like, a weird problem. Like, you're just, like, sleepy constantly, or you have constant headaches, or, you know, stuff like that. And then they're like, what the fuck do I do? It could be anything, you know, like. So, yeah, they're stupid as shit. They don't know fucking anything. So, dude, like, that whole experience I had dealing with depression, bro, I was on, like, 4 different fucking medications at once. And then I cured my depression with fucking magic mushrooms. Like, and technically I didn't even necessarily need the mushrooms, like, oh, like, I just needed a perspective change, really. That's what did it. Like, the mushrooms just gave me a new perspective on life. If somebody just gave me the wisdom that I give people for depression, like, that probably would have solved it. Like, the big benefit with the mushrooms is, like, you can internalize the whole experience, and, like, it's not just that you understand it, you actually, like, see it and feel it. But yeah, 4 different fucking medications that had fucking horrible side effects and shit. Especially the antipsychotics. Like, those give you fucking brain damage. I'm still having side effects from the fucking antipsychotics. My appetite is like permanently fucked. It's super fucking difficult to eat enough. So, and then, yeah, lo and behold, fucking magic mushrooms, fucking random drug dealer solved the fucking problem, you know, like. And what's funny too, the most effective drug so far for treating depression is testosterone. And what's the what are the fucking chances of a doctor prescribing testosterone for treatment of depression? Fucking 0. You will not find a single fucking doctor on the fucking planet who will recommend testosterone replacement therapy as a treatment for depression, when it is the most effective drug so far for alleviating depressive symptoms. So they make all these stupid fucking medications with all these stupid fucking side effects that don't even fucking work long term. And then the one medication that actually fucking works and long term and better than any other drug, steroids are like dangerous and your muscles will get too big and girls are gonna want to suck your dick because you have like hot ripply abs. So we can't prescribe you that. Take these other meds that cause fucking brain damage and it'll make your dick not work. Doctors are stupid. People you don't fucking understand just how stupid doctors are until you realize how fucking stupid doctors are, dude. Once you go through a whole like fucking thing with doctors and then you bother to do your own research and you figure things out for yourself and you realize like how simple and straightforward it was, but the doctor was too stupid to figure out, you realize like, oh wow, they're that dumb. No, my dad has not died yet. And yes, stupid, I read my fucking chat. Why the fuck do people ask me that stupid fucking question? When it comes to X-ray, MRI, similar stuff, not only you need the doctor, but also X-ray specialist. Oh, you'd think so, but no. Even with shit like that, doctors are fucking retards. Look into MRI prostate exams. That will open up a whole fucking can of worms where, again, you will realize doctors are fucking idiots. Holy fuck, dude. I just learned this recently. The whole, like, fucking industry around prostate cancer treatment is absolutely fucking insane and brain dead. So the go-to test that they use for like early detection of prostate cancer is PSA, prostate specific antigen. So they'll give you a PSA test. Well, they'll tell you if you have an elevated PSA, that's a sign you have prostate cancer. And I can't remember what the cutoff is, but I think it's like over 4 or something. PSA, prostate cancer level. Yeah, I think it's like 4. Yeah, 4 nanogram per mil or lower was traditionally considered normal. So if it's over 4, they say that's a sign of prostate cancer. Well, guess fucking what? If your PSA is over 4, and even the Google AI says this, it's associated with roughly a 25% rate of prostate or chance of prostate cancer. So literally less than random chance. Less than random chance. Like half of random chance. So, you know what they'll fucking recommend? They'll recommend you get a fucking biopsy done on your fucking prostate. So when they use a test that has a lower probability than random fucking chance, they'll tell you to undergo fucking surgery and get your fucking prostate cut open. And what's even more fucked up is that you can biopsy any fucking part of the prostate. Like, the cancer is going to be in a specific spot, right? So what is the likelihood that there's a 25% fucking chance that you have prostate cancer, and then they have to be lucky enough in the fucking biopsy to even biopsy a section of it that has the fucking cancer? So it'll never fucking happen. And then even with fucking PSA through the fucking roof, 10, now you get to the fucking part where, literally like coin flip, then you get a fucking coin flip. But they'll actually order a fucking tissue biopsy if your prostate is over 4, which is fucking insane. And on top of that, there's a better way to fucking detect prostate cancer without requiring fucking surgery. It's called a fucking MRI. So you can get an MRI done of your fucking prostate that will look at the entire fucking prostate. You don't have to rely on, let's just hope we're lucky enough to get a fucking sample of the tissue biopsy that has cancer. You can look at the entire fucking prostate with an MRI. But it gets better. Most doctors aren't fucking trained to look at the fucking MRI properly, or even order the right fucking type of MRI scan, so that even if you have prostate cancer, these fucking dumbasses won't be able to fucking know you have it, because 1, they won't order a proper MRI scan, and 2, even if they do, they're not trained to actually fucking identify it with the fucking MRI scan, because they're told in medical school to get a fucking tissue biopsy, and they don't train them to look at the fucking MRI results properly. It's insane. So like, you literally have to know all this in order to find the right fucking doctor and specialist who fucking knows what they're fucking doing. So you already have to be smarter and know more than most doctors to even know how to get fucking proper treatment. It's like, it's retarded.
How long is it going to be until the role of doctor is downgraded to basically customer service, till you're the human face in the office, making sure the machine doesn't fuck up and you're getting paid 1/3 of what you were making? We're talking about preparing your child for the future, giving them the best life possible. What school on the face of the planet has taught students how to preserve wealth and how to make money, which is day trading and gambling? What university program does that? Well, the people that are getting pumped out of the schools, the best schools, are leaving with $500,000 of debt. They're
Can tests be a better alternative for ADHD or brain cognitivity? That's not a word. Rather than Adderall, Concert, or Ritalin? I have not seen any research indicating that it's good for treating ADHD. It can help with cognitive ability, but I don't know if it has any effect on ADHD at all.
Hireable. They're being replaced by towel heads anyway. So what are you preparing your kids for? My son Benjamin's going to be going to private school where he will learn how to do math. Like you would fucking know what's going to be worth money in 40 years. Shithead. Like you would know. The way you probably prepare your kid for the future is by teaching them how to be a streamer or whatever. Fitness influencer. You would literally probably be better prepared for the future if you are a fucking fitness influencer than whatever boneheaded thing you think you're gonna send your kid to college for. You go up to see snow and you don't see any, and your kids are disappointed, and hopefully 20 years later, what they remember is something like, my dad, who cooks for us, loved us so much, he drove us up to see snow, and we didn't see any, but it was crazy. It was a really fun weekend. We saw a lot of stuff, and that's a good outcome. The bad outcome would be, this is like a knife sticking out of people's heads. And I'm not saying this guy's like this, but I know if you're complaining, there's a chance you're like this. When you're not resilient and you're outcome dependent, you're attached on good outcomes, you need a good outcome to feel good. This is different from the Teletubby people who are liars and f***s anyway. And they're like, oh, I guess we didn't get to see any snow. Oh, well, it's just as good. That's bullshit. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you don't get a birthday present or whatever, it doesn't psychologically shatter you. If you go drive up to see snow and you don't see snow and your kids are in the back seat and at some point you're driving and you're like, I can't fucking believe we didn't see any snow. Drove all this way, we had to eat ramen? Fuck! That's gonna ensure that your kids have the same knife in their head that makes them retarded. Attitude is everything, bro. You have to have an all-terrain personality. You have to be ready for whatever comes, because there's bad stuff coming. That's a lot of it, actually. There's actually a lot of bad stuff coming. So you need to be ready for it. It sounds like you're a good dad. You're cooking dinner for your kids. Just don't let them see you get rattled by little inconveniences like this, because, you know, there's a lot worse shit coming down the line. If you're in Florida, the Tony Montana mansion is located in Miami. It reportedly has a large pile of snow on the main office desk. The other thing is, like, the people that flip out all the time, you don't remember them as being impressive or powerful or anything like that. You just remember them as being weak and, like, disrupted by anything that happens.
He's got a point.
But the worst injury ever, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was squatting 600, and I always did like 12, 15 reps somewhere in there. And this day I was coming up on rep number 8, and I heard a loud pop. I'm like, what the heck was that? I thought the guy who was spotting me had hit me. You know, we always hit each other and get each other fired up. I'm like, man, I turned around like, did you just hit me? He's like, no, dude, I didn't touch you. I'm like, well, what was that loud pop? He's like, I don't know. As soon as I said, what was that loud pop, I felt this pain go down my left leg. And I'm like, whoa, that hurt. I'm like, well, I'm done with squatting. I went and did leg press, hack squats. I did some hamstring. Came home, put on my uniform, got me a bite to eat. And I'm like, wait a minute, my back still hurting. Something must be seriously wrong. So I'm like, I ain't going to work. And got an MRI, and they like, oh man, you got a herniated disc. I remember the worst injury ever.
Yeah, and he just kept training. He said 2 weeks later, he just kept training like he normally did. And just kept going to a chiropractor for like fucking adjustments like an idiot. And now his spine is fucked after a whole bunch of surgeries and shit. So yeah, that's why he's fucked up right now. So you might just want to take a break if you get injured like that.
To tell like who's going to have a bad experience with high doses of testosterone, you have to earn those levels. If you want to be able to have higher testosterone levels, you need to prepare the body over oftentimes many months to be able to process those in a beneficial way. And if you blast somebody who's metabolically really, really unhealthy with a high dose of testosterone initially, I've learned my lesson over the years. You know, those are the guys that they put on 20 pounds of water and they're miserable and they're upset at you and they want to quit. You can kind of tell like who's going to have a bad experience.
Yeah. Just start low and then work your way up. Oh my god. Oh. They're French.
After falling from the 4th floor and being abandoned by its mother, a dying baby squirrel was saved by a single father who refused euthanasia, leading to an impossible bond where a predatory cat became its lifelong bodyguard. And then his best friend died, after which he did something that even Demon didn't expect.
Wow. I didn't know you could walk squirrels on a leash.
Their journey began on a simple April afternoon in 2014. Deccan Anderson, a father living in Denmark, was at home when he saw a baby squirrel fall from the 4th floor of his building.
Yeah, AI. Fucking retarded.
So in men's health and bodybuilding circles, estrogen really gets demonized. There's this notion that you have to keep it as low as possible. As a clinician, as a practitioner, can you tell me what's wrong about that belief?
So many things are wrong with that belief. Just from a 10,000 foot view, I mean, your body makes estradiol for a reason. And here's the interesting thing, like estradiol, it's not a female hormone. It's not a male hormone. It's not even a human hormone. It's all primates, all mammals, and all non-mammalian species on this planet all make estradiol. They all aromatize testosterone to estradiol to some extent or another. So, what does that tell you? Like, if you're an evolutionary biologist, things that are that conserved throughout the entire animal kingdom, they must be pretty important, right? So it tells you, like estradiol is probably many hundreds of millions of years old as a molecule, and it has still persisted. So again, when you see something like that, if estradiol was a bad thing, if estradiol was deleterious, then it would have been selected out of the population. And all of these, most
Sleep, you don't need $2. Let me see.
Just wanted to give you guys an update on the business. We're still shipping out orders. We are not closed down yet. I did end up getting a credit card, which has bought me a few weeks' time.
Dude, isn't he already $350K in credit card debt?
None of the loans have gone through. I had a few offers with crazy high interest rates, which I just can't take. Just insane. They want like 1.2 million paid back on 700,000 on like a 2-year term, which, I mean, that's insane. And I'm willing to put the building up for collateral and all the properties and stuff. So I figured I could get a loan, and I didn't think the personal credit mattered that much, but because my personal credit isn't that good, despite me saying, hey, here's a building as collateral.
Oh, not that good. He's $350K in credit card debt, and that's just the credit card debt alone. I don't know what other lines of credit he has. Like, I know he has the mortgage and shit, so, like, he's over-leveraged as fuck.
What's going to happen? Worst case scenario, if I don't pay you guys, you get the building. So, in my mind, that made sense. That's not how banks actually work. So,
he's still paying for a mortgage. How the fuck can he put his fucking building down as collateral?
Still trying to get a loan and do some things to make things...
Dude, he's just fucking lying.
A little smoother, more comfortable, so we'll see how things go over the next few weeks.
Oh boy. He is so dumb, dude. He's cooked. He is so fucking cooked. I'm not going to be surprised if we hear a video, my house burnt down, in a few weeks or months. He's gonna do whatever the fuck he can.
Most, if not all of these species, right? But that's not what we see. In fact, we see it in all species. So that right there is your first clue. Like, this is really, really, really important. So, and maybe if estradiol had been discovered today, we would not have labeled it as a female hormone. It's sort of like, there were a lot of compounds discovered in the 1800s that were just called vitamins, because that's what it was cool to call things vitamins. Like, again, like vitamin D is more of a hormone, acts more like a hormone in many cases than a quote vitamin. It's more like a hormone than it is like some of these water-soluble B vitamins. But again, when it was discovered, it was, everything was labeled a vitamin. So, when estradiol was discovered, it was labeled as a female hormone, right? So unfortunately, that narrative has stuck. And it's stuck not just in the lay public, but it's in the medical community too. Although, you know what, like, I do feel like things are changing a bit. It's like at a snail's pace. Maybe that's why we're here, is to kind of help guys have a more nuanced perspective. And that's the thing that I don't like about the TRT space, is that it lacks nuance. Things are very black and white. There are a lot of guys out there and on the forums and in YouTube and like Reddit and stuff who they're very black and white. This is how it is. Your E2 needs to be this, and they're perpetuating a lot of myths. If there's one thing you learn in practicing medicine is, like, first of all, not everybody reads the textbook when they come in before they come and see you, right? And then there's a lot of nuance, and this sort of stuff is always way more complicated than people make it out to be. Like, I've been looking at this for decades, and I still feel like I'm just learning. Like, every day I just learned something new about estradiol just like 2 days ago, getting ready for a podcast, and how it interacts with a certain beta blocker. Like, a beta blocker that I've been prescribing for 15 years. I had no idea that the estradiol receptor was involved in this particular beta blocker. So, like, I learn new stuff every single day. And, so we have to be humble with this kind of information and realize that we don't know everything about hormones and health and physiology. And so I'm always worried when I see people, make these black and white statements, and there's no shortage of that. So estradiol is super, super important. I know guys have heard this before, but it is responsible for many, 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 many of the positive effects of testosterone in the male body. Again, many of the misconceptions, I think they do somewhat come from the bodybuilding world. I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not the guy to come see if you want to get ready for a show. But I am the guy, if you want to come in, you tell me you want to try to live to 90 and not have a myocardial infarction and not have a stroke, and you want to be able to still get an erection in your 80s, okay, like I can help you with that. And guess what? Estradiol is really, really, really important. If that's your goal, if that's on the agenda for you, then listen up, because estradiol is super, super important. So,
yeah, I think that black and white thinking is really destructive. The human body isn't right. It's not helpful. We don't understand everything about the human body. It's not a controlled system. As you said yourself, you're learning things every day. We don't understand. We haven't mapped all of the causes and effects. And it's naive to think that one protocol or one diagnostic would be useful for everyone. That's just not the case. Yeah. So maybe to talk a bit more specifically, though, about estrogen, can you tell me, let's just talk about men specifically. What are some of the positive impacts of estrogen and estradiol in the male body?
Sure. So to piggyback on one of my previous statements, the aromatase enzyme is present in, to my knowledge, I believe it's present in every single tissue in the body. There may be a few like isolated tissues where it's negligible. So again, that tells you that it's extremely important for basically all bodily processes to some extent or another. Some are more important than others. So it's important to differentiate. So in men, testosterone comes from the testicles, right? So it's made in the testes, and it diffuses out. It's used locally, of course, for sperm production, but then it diffuses out into the bloodstream, right? And it goes out to all the tissues, that need it. That's not the case with estradiol. Estradiol is made locally at the tissues that need it, and it's precisely regulated inside the cell. So a particular tissue will make, or it will aromatize estradiol to the extent that it's needed locally, and then it will not make any more. And so whatever's left over, it can kind of leach out into the serum. So just to hit some of the big ones, where is estradiol produced in the greatest quantities in the male body? The first one, we can start head to toe, is the brain. Very high concentrations of aromatase within the brain. Yeah. So that right there, that's, why would the human brain evolve to have high levels of aromatase? Well, it's because obviously estradiol is extremely, extremely important, right? So it's made in very high levels in the brain. It's made in very, very high levels in fatty tissue, particularly like visceral body fat. So again, you have to ask yourself, why would the human body, concentrate the aromatase enzyme in fat tissue? Must be, so aromatase, or excuse me, estradiol must be pretty damn important for fat metabolism, right? Otherwise, why would it be there? Why would the body waste resources to put the aromatase enzyme in such high concentrations in fat tissue? I think everybody's aware that it's super important for bone. So we like women's issues get a lot of, especially like osteoporosis, it gets a lot of press, but it's just as important for guys. If you lose your testosterone and therefore lose your estradiol as a man, you will develop osteoporosis. Those are just a few of the major sites. But again, and then the final one that I should talk about that's also really, really important to me, especially is the blood vessels. So the vascular endothelium, right? The lining of your blood vessels. This gets back to the longevity issue that I was talking about earlier. Like if you want to live into your 90s, you need to avoid the leading cause of death in both men and women, which is cardiovascular disease. So the way I simply say it is you need to keep your pipes clean. And so the quickest way to gum up your pipes is to be estradiol or estrogen deficient. It will accelerate atherosclerosis. It accelerates microvascular dysfunction. There's nothing good that comes of that. So that's just kind of a high level view. All of these super important tissues, your fat, your brain, your bone, and your cardiovascular system have very high concentrations of this aromatase enzyme, which tells you right there it's extremely, extremely important. Again, this is stuff that I've just learned over the years, and I had no idea because I never learned it in med school and definitely didn't learn it in residency. When estradiol gets produced, as I was alluding to, it gets produced at the tissue level. It is used by the tissues locally. But here's the thing, it's not just estradiol that gets used and binds to the receptor. Estradiol, just like DHT, it gets further metabolized into many, many, many further downstream metabolites, right?
Can marijuana replace epileptic antipsychotics? In some cases it can. It really, doctors won't tell you this because, again, they're fucking stupid. People respond differently to different medications. One drug for one person might work great. Another drug for another person might not work at all or has horrible fucking side effects and barely does anything. One drug that is ineffective in one patient is going to be highly effective in another patient. So you might see some studies where, marijuana, it's not nearly as good for epileptic treatment as like some other medication. That's not all individuals. So why not try the medication that has very, very low risk and has efficacy? See how you do. And if it works, it fucking works. So, again, they won't tell you that. They'll just tell you, this is currently the most effective drug. Just take this, and then you'll report having side effects, and they're like, well, that's the best medication there is. They're just stupid.
All of which have really important biological activity, and a big chunk of those we really don't even know how they work. So a substantial part of them don't even bind to the estradiol receptor at all. So they bind in and they work in other ways, and they have non-genomic activities, meaning they don't bind to a DNA. They don't bind to a receptor in the nucleus. So many of them are important neurosteroids, which again gets back to like CNS function. Many of them inhibit inflammatory changes in the blood vessels. So it's very dangerous in my opinion. And if you're going to be monkeying with something at the very top of this hormonal cascade, with an AI or with, in some other mechanism, first of all, you have no idea what's going on inside the cell because all you have is serum levels to measure. And we know, this is not just me saying this. There's a ton of literature on this that, the serum levels do not necessarily reflect what's going on in the tissues with estradiol. And they certainly don't reflect what's going on with these metabolites, which we don't have any way to accurately measure those in the cell, let alone in the serum. So you can have a minor change in your serum E2, like from taking an AI. And I mean minor, like literally like a 5-point to 10-point drop in your serum E2 that has really profound effects at the tissue level. And that's because, again, the serum E2, it just doesn't reflect what's going on in the cell. So that's why I said this stuff is really complicated. And you don't want to be taking you don't want to be taking a sledgehammer to something that requires a scalpel. And that's essentially what guys do when they manage their estrogen. And unfortunately, a lot of physicians do it. A lot of mid-level providers do it too, because I just don't think they have taken the time to look into the nuance and look into
Oh, of course they don't. They're doctors. Why would they bother?
the details. You know, when I first got into this space many years ago, I was trained to use AIs, and I'm ashamed to say that I used to prescribe AIs. And I went through this natural process where I thought everybody needed an AI. And then I was like, well, you know what? Guys they don't really need these AIs, but it's not going to hurt them if they want one. And now I'm at the point where like pretty much nobody needs an AI. And if I do prescribe it, I'm actively harming you. And if I recall, I took an oath, you know, to first do no harm. So I'm not going to prescribe these drugs anymore. So I haven't written for an AI in many, 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 many years.
I want to circle back later to the topic of endothelial health, because I think that's really misunderstood in the bodybuilding space, particularly when it comes to HDL. People just tend to write off the decline in HDL that you see with superphysiological tests, and they don't really talk about the ramifications for endothelial health. But let's get back to that later. The question I'm thinking about now, you talked about aromatase present in every single cell of the body. How does the body know how much estradiol to produce, and what's that relationship between the presence of testosterone and estradiol, right? Because you alluded to that gentleman with the really low testosterone. So what's going on there?
Yeah.
URE2 is 189. That is exceptionally high. My nipples start uncomfortably itching once I'm at like over 70 or like around 75. That's when they start uncomfortably itching. So I don't think I could handle that.
So great question. I'm not going to pretend that I know all the answers about how each, tissue can precisely regulate, the amount of estradiol. Like, I don't know. I don't know if anybody, maybe there's somebody that knows, but it's not me. But, there's a regulatory mechanism at the HPTA axis. So when there is estrogen, there's a sense in the hypothalamus that there is not enough estradiol. Then there will be mechanisms put into place to raise that. But at the tissue level, we know there's a few things that will stimulate the aromatase enzyme to be produced, and one of them is insulin resistance. So that's why you tend to see people that are type 2 diabetics who also have increased levels of body fat and increased levels of certain inflammatory cytokines. There seems to be a parallel rise in estradiol when those conditions are met. So most people think that that's a bad thing, right? The estradiol is making this worse. And I've come to look at it the opposite way, is when you have a sick and inflamed and dysfunctional tissue, again, there's a reason, like why would the body start making more estradiol in this disease state? It's not, the body is not trying to make you worse. The body is trying to compensate for the state that you've put yourself in of, insulin resistance and obesity. Because remember, when you become obese and you have a lot of visceral body fat, a lot of people don't know this, including physicians, is that, fat tissue is an endocrine organ. So it secretes a whole ton of hormones, and they're called adipokines, and they have a wide range of effects. The majority of them, when they're present in excess, are bad for you. They promote inflammation. They promote atherosclerosis. They promote insulin resistance. All these things that you don't want to have happen start happening when you have excess body fat. And so estradiol in that environment, or aromatase, is upregulated to help compensate for that. So, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater when you look at this, fat inflamed guy and you're like, oh, your estradiol is too high. I know how to lower that. Let's put you on an AI. Well, you're actually getting rid of the guy's, it's a protective mechanism. And so, that's one of the ways that the local tissues, upregulate and raise estradiol levels, is as a compensation for, a unhealthy state. And it makes perfect sense, right? Because when you get, what happens to your serum estradiol? I mean, I've seen it in myself. When I drop my body fat from 15, 16%, which is still, especially compared to the general is pretty low compared to the general population, right? I've been I do this thing. I'm a little crazy. Like every 5 years, I try to get, maybe not quite in contest shape, but I try to get to 5% body fat just to prove that I can do it. And I wait 5 years because it's so miserable that I forget how bad it was. So I just keep doing it. But like when I've gotten down into those.
Retta is highly effective. I've used it before. I can't take it in high doses, like even low doses. In research, the starting dose is 2 milligrams. If I take 2 milligrams, my appetite goes to 0. I'll literally forget to eat all day. I already have appetite problems. In terms of like hunger, like my hunger levels are already so fucking low. It's difficult to eat enough. I still have cravings for food, so like if I don't eat, my blood sugar will go low, stuff like that, and that'll trigger cravings to eat, but I rarely ever feel hungry. So the normal starting dose for Retta, that just completely fucking annihilates my appetite. So I used 2 milligrams for like a few weeks, and then I just couldn't handle it anymore. So I went down to 1 milligram. 1 milligram, it doesn't reduce my appetite by much, if at all, but I still get some of the benefits from it. So it has the glucagon action, so it prevents my blood sugar from dropping too low when I'm dieting. So I can diet really hard, but I still have like stable blood sugar, still have energy. I feel like it's easier to sleep too, so it has those benefits.
Single digit body fat levels, my serum estradiol, take it for what it's worth, will drop down to as low as 12 or 14. So, and you see that universally when guys get healthier and they get leaner, the body says, okay, listen, I don't need to be producing so much of this protective substance. You got this. Let me dial back the aromatase. It's another reason why, when you give people metformin who are obese and inflamed and have high estradiol levels, guess what happens to the aromatase enzyme? It gets downregulated when you give metformin. Now, why would that be? Because metformin improves your insulin sensitivity, and people who are diabetic or pre-diabetic, it improves their metabolic health. So the body says, okay, I don't need to be producing as much estradiol anymore. So I've done like a complete 180, and I've done that just based off of what I've seen. I don't have some weird emotional connection to estradiol. I'm not a dogmatic person, even though I do have a pink Stanley Cup today. So maybe I do have an estradiol problem.
Yeah,
but
keep that off camera, please. Yeah, you're ruining your credibility.
it's my wife
Yeah,
too,
That's right.
So maybe I do need an AI. But anyway, that's how I look at, estradiol, and it serves really important functions, right? And there's a reason it goes up when you're not healthy. And you're making things worse. When you get in on an AI, you honestly are making, even though perhaps psychologically you might feel better if you have these quote high E2 symptoms, you're not doing yourself a favor, especially if you're interested in longevity in the long run.
That makes perfect sense. And the point you made about E2 declining with body fat levels, it's interesting. You'll see guys on contest prep, bodybuilders, they will crash their estrogen early in prep, and that will forestall fat loss because they think they need to do it. Right. There's this notion, maybe towards the end of prep, there's kind of a cultural notion within bodybuilding that you need this dry look that low estrogen levels can bring about. And maybe there's some validity to that cosmetically, but guys will preempt that, and they'll be 12 weeks out from a show, 0 estradiol in serum, and they can't lose any fat because their body doesn't know what to do with it, right? So it makes sense when you see that phenomenon in obese individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, what that is, we have literature on that, right? There's these old, what I believe they're Finkelstein studies where they, put guys on testosterone and they would block DHT and then they would block estradiol and kind of like see what would happen. And the group where they basically shut down their fat loss was the group where they crashed their estradiol. So
100%.
There you go.
To circle back, just about
It's probably also another reason why it's way fucking easier to get lean on testosterone. Aromatase activity is still kind of elevated.
AI usage in general. So you said ideally no one would ever be using an AI. A guy comes to you, right? They're interested.
You don't need a prescription from a doctor for Retta. You can just order it online.
In TRT, maybe for whatever reason they're at subclinical levels, they need support. How do you find the right level that's best for them? Does that mean that you're mostly modulating their testosterone dosage so that you never have to use an AI? Am I missing some other part of the equation where perhaps people are simply capable of tolerating higher estrogen levels than they're used to thinking about? Like, what's your sort of mental model for getting someone in a place where they're healthy and comfortable?
Yeah, so that's such a great question because it's going to vary. You know, when I see a man for the first time, I make an educated guess about based off their metabolic health, and it's based off symptoms, it's based off their comorbidities. Are they diabetic? Are they hypertensive? Do they have coronary artery disease? Do they have heart failure? All these other things. What are their goals? And essentially, what is their baseline health? And I make a determination of what I think would be a reasonable protocol for them. Now, I've gotten more conservative as I've gotten older, just in general in medicine, and that includes in TRT. So if I have somebody, for example, like if you came to see me, like you're lean, you're muscular, I can probably, it's probably accurate to say you will tolerate higher levels of testosterone initially than a gentleman who comes and sees me. Like I had a guy not too long ago who was like over 300 pounds, pre-diabetic, hypertensive, had sleep apnea. If I blast that guy if I give him even the same dose that I gave you, like that's probably not going to be a good ride for him. And of course, like I want guys to have I don't want guys, especially brand new to TRT, to have a bad experience. And unfortunately, that's what happens in a lot of these clinics where it's like, here's your 200 milligrams a week, your milligram of anastrozole. And then, 2 weeks later, they've got cankles and they feel miserable and they're short of breath. So, you can kind of tell like who's going to have a bad experience with high doses of testosterone. You have to, I think Dave Lee has said this and I like it. Like you have to earn those levels. If you want to be able to have higher testosterone levels, you need to prepare the body over oftentimes many months in order to accept those and to be able to process those in a beneficial way. And again, if you blast somebody who's metabolically really, really unhealthy with a high dose of testosterone initially, it's just generally not. I've learned my lesson over the years. Those are the guys that they put on 20 pounds of water and they're miserable and they're upset at you and they want to quit. So generally, I will start off lower. I like more frequent injections. If you're going to go the injectable route, more injections are better than less for most guys. And, we start off slowly and we titrate up. But my focus in my particular practice, like I'm not a TRT doctor. I'm not a testosterone doctor. So I'm a health and longevity doctor within that practice. So I'm not looking at 6 weeks. I'm not looking at 6 months in the same way. I'm looking at 6 years. I might be looking at 60 years for you. So we're going to take things nice and slow. And as we dial your testosterone in, we're going to be working on the things that really move the needle with longevity, which is things like getting your visceral body fat down. Am I controlling your blood pressure? How are your lipids? All of these things that I know will keep you out of my other practice in the emergency department because I don't want to see you there. I'm busy enough over there. So people always say, I take a holistic approach, but I kind of do. I kind of, and I take a long-term approach. My main priority is not to get you jacked and tanned. Although I fully support you if you want to do that, but I like to think of that as being that's a side effect of you getting healthier. So the cosmetic part of this, which, we all want that. We all want to look good naked. We want to have sex and we want to feel good. Those are all byproducts of what's happening internally that's making you healthy. So that's kind of how I approach testosterone.
AJ here. If you're enjoying this interview, please consider subscribing to the channel as it makes a huge difference. And if you're looking to transform your body and your mind without jeopardizing your health, consider hiring me as a... Are you also thinking about administering things like HGH? Does HCG have any place in your practice? Like, what's your sort of thinking on those sort of ancillary compounds?
I don't have anybody on HGH at the moment. It's so difficult to legally prescribe HGH within the United States. It's and it still
retarded.
kind of baffles me a little bit about how strict and how much scrutiny there is over HGH.
It's weird. It's not dangerous at all. Especially compared to some of the other anabolic steroids that are still FDA approved for use in the US. You can prescribe nandrolone for things like joint pain, even osteoporosis, frailty, stuff like that. They will give that to AIDS patients or people with wasting diseases. Anavar, oral steroid, Anadrol, still prescribed for anemia. Halotestin, I can't remember what that's prescribed for. It might also be for anemia or something. But Halotestin, that's an FDA-approved steroid. Human growth hormone heals your whole fucking body. Just makes you feel amazing. You just feel healthier taking it. And you get some of the best sleep you'll ever have in your fucking life. So, like, I just don't get why it's such a weird fucking taboo to get prescribed human growth hormone.
Again, when I very first started in this field, like in the mid 2010 timeframe, I mean, you could just get HGH and it was no problem. And it was sort of like, that's just part of your protocol. But it's just almost impossible. So that's why guys are using the peptides and things like that. And that's a whole different conversation. So, but yeah, do I think it's valuable? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's valuable. What the literature will say, and what I've seen in clinical practice, is obviously the older you are, the more you stand to benefit from GH. I don't think, unless you're in the bodybuilding world, like there's not the bang for the buck, because it is extraordinarily expensive. Like if you're in your 30s or maybe even in your early 40s, you may not get as much out of 2 to 4 IUs of GH as you would if you're 60 or 65, where I think it actually has the most benefit. But it helps with body composition. We know it is anabolic for connective tissue. Anecdotally, I've got a lot of guys that have told me it really helps with their chronic arthritic pain. It definitely helps you recover from surgery. So if you have a major surgery coming up, or God forbid you get in a big trauma, like if I got hit by a bus and had an open femur that needed fixation, you better believe I would probably get on some GH afterwards, to help speed that up. So it definitely has a role there. I'm getting to the age where I'm like, should I be thinking about this kind of thing? And I follow my IGF levels are like still up in the upper quartile. So I'm going to base it on that, but I can.
Yeah, my IGF-1 was 220 before hopping on gear. I didn't get it tested again, but that's pretty high.
See eventually that I probably will be on a low dose of growth hormone, because I do think it's beneficial, and I don't really believe a lot of the scaremongering that's out there in the endocrine world about it promoting cancer and those sorts of things. It just I just don't. I feel like that research is flawed. So
steroids are a cheat sheet to get big without the experience, dedication to building a healthy body. They're not. If you take steroids and you don't know how to train properly and you're not consistent and dedicated, you're just going to end up like clavicular. So Clav does not look like he's on steroids, despite being on steroids, because he just doesn't train hard, doesn't train consistently, doesn't really know what he's doing. So that's just nonsense.
GH, I think, is it's something to consider. It's extraordinarily expensive, and it's not a feel-good hormone, right? Like you don't take GH and feel like you're going to conquer the world the next week.
It makes you feel better. Like, again, especially with the amazing sleep it gives you. I don't know. He's never taken growth hormone, I don't think. Yeah, like he admitted he didn't. If you take it, you just feel like $1 million.
Which you kind of can with testosterone and things like thyroid.
Oh, wow. I have a kitty.
And like you immediately feel better. GH is a slow burn, but that fits in like very well with my overall philosophy of like long-term, thinking. So I think GH is great. It's just, there's a calculation you have to make in your own mind about the cost and, when is the right time to start it, because that's going to differ from man to man. Now, HCG is a different story. So fertility is very important to me. I got a lot of guys. That's kind of a niche area for me as well, because I went through infertility with my wife and I for a very, very long time. So I was on HCG for over 10 years as part of a fertility protocol. I'm not on it anymore because we've done IVF. We got our boys and we have some embryos on ice. So I'm kind of done there. But if you're on TRT and you want to remain fertile to some extent, HCG is mandatory, right? You need LH and you need FSH, ideally. So you need to have HCG. And you probably, or not probably, maybe you might also need recombinant FSH to maximize your sperm counts. I know that I did. And that stuff is very expensive. So from a fertility standpoint, yeah, HCG is absolutely a requirement. Now, beyond that, then it becomes a bit of an individual decision. So there is a cosmetic part of TRT where, guys have some testicular atrophy. And so they will take HCG to help mitigate that, even though, in my opinion, it doesn't work that well. I mean, you will get some volume back, obviously. But so if that's a cosmetic issue for you or your partner, then cool, like whatever, you can be on some HCG. And then there's that third group that they genuinely feel better when they're on HCG. And I don't think it's not a placebo effect, but for whatever reason, they feel much better on HCG. And in that case, I think it's perfectly fine. Get on a low dose of HCG and just integrate that into your protocol, and you can move forward with it. And I have not experienced, guys, I never had any issues with HCG in over a decade being on it. To be honest, I was one of those guys that, like, take it or leave it. I didn't feel any different on it or off of it. So there's a group that feels much better. There's guys like me who, like, I wouldn't know if you were injecting me with saline other than my sperm counts were up. But then there's another handful of guys that have really bad experiences with HCG and they just don't tolerate it. And I don't know why. Maybe someone out there knows why, but it's, that's basically, those are the three buckets. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. For fertility, it's a must. Like, you got to have HCG.
I got two bro lore question follow-ups based on the two things you said. And it's okay, these may be ridiculous questions. So if you don't have a good answer, no harm done. The first question you brought up.
I think that guy, Action Man, had like a drug overdose or something, and he canceled the debate, and he said he can have it in 2 days.
IGF. You brought up IGF expression. There is this notion that estradiol helps upregulate IGF-1 expression in the body. And we've seen references more specifically to bovine studies. So it's funny, you talked earlier about estrogen being present in all mammals, right, in all animals. So that's what I thought of immediately when you said that. Is there a concrete relationship between estradiol and IGF-1? And what would that be?
Yeah, good question. I don't know the answer to that exactly, especially in humans. Yeah, is there a relationship? Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, we know that when you take things like enclomiphene, right, you can drop IGF-1. So when you block estradiol, yeah, absolutely, you're going to have, you can, and I've seen this in guys' labs, you will see a decline in IGF-1. Now, what I really care about as a physician that sees patients is, is that clinically meaningful? Does that have any real world impact, or is this just like a gee whiz lab thing that we see on a piece of paper, right? Because, they taught us in medical school, and I'm hammering this all the time with my residents, is like, you treat the patient, not the labs. So, if I put you on a protocol and your IGF goes from whatever to whatever, what is the downstream effect of that? I don't know. Especially if we're talking about, like, generally within the ballpark of the normal range, maybe a little super physiologic, maybe you're in the middle of the normal range. I don't know. I haven't seen it make huge clinical differences. I don't routinely check IGF-1 levels. I check them initially in men, and I'll do it like at their annual level, but it's not something that I micromanage, and it's not what I call a decision node. So if you're solidly in the normal level in your IGF when I first see you, unless the guy wants me to, I'm happy to check it, any lab that a guy wants me to check, but it's not a decision node for me, meaning like I'm not going to make clinical decisions on your protocol, and my advice for you isn't going to change based off of an IGF level. Unless if it's profoundly low, that's a different story. Like we're going to chase that a little bit. Oftentimes it corrects on testosterone, but due to estradiol. But yeah, I don't get my panties in a big wad about IGF-1 levels unless they're like extreme outliers.
No, I'm glad to hear you say that phrase about treating the patient and not the labs. I
Yeah.
definitely encounter a lot of guys who get overly neurotic about things on paper.
100%. All day
Right?
long.
Like they get obsessed with
All day long.
SHBG or
Oh my
prolactin,
God.
right?
Right.
And they think that somehow this is going to be the key to their childhood trauma or whatever issues they're dealing with.
Exactly.
Right? Like this is
It's
it.
just not. It's just not the case, right? It's just
not the case.
It's like one more thing to obsess about. If I lived on a desert island and I was the king of my desert island and I ran my medical practice and I didn't have this medical oversight that we all have, I would be getting a hell of a lot less labs, and I would be basing most of my stuff off.
As an athlete growing up, wonder if I can get into basketball. Might not be possible for me since I'm 40. Haven't played in 15 years. Well, didn't Michael Jackson start fucking playing again in his 40s? Oh, Michael Jordan. Put in Michael Jackson. Yeah, stopped playing when he was 40, so age is just a number.
Good clinical judgment and a good history and physical exam, like old school medicine, like they did back in the old days. I would not be checking all these stupid labs that we always check, not to the same extent that I do now. But, you have to do it now to practice and to keep your nose clean. You have to have these numbers on a piece of paper that may or may not have anything to do with what's actually going on with the patient. And like estradiol is a perfect example of that, right? So a guy will come in with a certain whatever complaint X, Y, or Z. Hey, I was a little bit more emotional last week. The doc draws an estradiol level, and your estradiol level's 50. Well, then it immediately, like, there's that association, like, well, it must be this. Well, you don't know that. You don't know that. That's just a number on a piece of paper. There's like 1,000 variables that could have gone into why you were being a little emo last week. Like, come on.
I miss
No.
But like I've got a good friend of mine that's how he got on an AI, was like he started feeling like kind of self-conscious about himself, and this doctor drew a level. It was high, and that was like 15 years ago. He's still on the AI because of this like feeling that he had because he didn't like his body or something.
Your life would.
I'm like, bro, you got to stop that. It's ridiculous. But that's how it's, this is what happens with AIs. I know you've seen this. They get started for whatever reason early on, and then they just auto refill every time they go and get a new drug. And physician never stops to reevaluate. You've got to constantly reevaluate, your protocol. And again, this goes back to my mainstream practice too. I'm always telling this to the residents, like, the best thing you can do for some people is take them off of medications, because every time they see a new doctor, they get a new med. And so grandma comes in with a list of like
3 sit-ups.
Okay, I'll do that later. I just realized I had my cam too big.
like 15 different meds. They're all interacting with each other. And it's like, well, no wonder grandma is lightheaded and passes out and falls and breaks her hip. It's because, like, look at these medicines, So sometimes the best thing you can do for somebody is take them off of medicines. And an AI I've definitely lumped that in that category. So anybody that comes to me with an AI, eventually you're going to come off of that AI, because we're going to, whatever reason you're on the AI in the first place, we're going to actually get to the root cause of it. And 99.9999% of the time, it's not because your estradiol level is too high. It's something else.
Yeah, I mean, the over medicalization of symptoms and behaviors just undermines people's resiliency.
I know.
You know,
Sir William Squire von Dutch Meyer Donatiller is also been donating under Tybalt Romeo this month. Some other names. What are you going to be to debate AC7? Yeah, I was gonna debate him. He canceled last minute. I think he was on fentanyl or something. Says in 2 days he'll do it. Who the fuck knows?
I think I finally might have figured out the door. I have to just really kick it. I have to really not kick it, but turn it.
Okay, that was a little retarded.
you talked about sexual function earlier, libido, right? That's the best way to break your dick is to get obsessed with it. Right? Like that's that's gonna do it more than anything, right? If the moment you notice and you start psychoanalyzing and thinking, oh, when did I last inject? Did I take my Cialis? You're fucked.
We've
You're
all
fucked.
been there, right? We've all been there. Everybody, like, I'm not a neurotic person. I've had those thoughts in my head, you know? And it's like, no, it's actually like the 3 cocktails that I had a few hours ago.
Or like I'm not into it, or I'm stressed. I have had a bad day.
I'm just not into it. I just came off of 3 night shifts. Like, I'm sorry, honey. Like, I'm just not down, you know, for that tonight. Give me a day to recover. So yeah, it's you know, when all you have is a sledgehammer or a hammer, everything looks like a nail kind of thing. And it's, you know, it's a sign of like a provider who's maybe not as well versed, or maybe a bit of a surface level thinker when they just reflexively reach for the AI and don't take a moment to like learn about the pathophysiology, talk to the patient, see what's really going on. And then you can, you know, I think most of the time when you do that, you can figure out like, there's another way to fix this that doesn't involve taking away one of the most beneficial hormones in all of biology, right?
Most definitely. The second bro question, and this I think actually you do have an answer to. You were talking about HCG before. You mentioned you were on it for 10 years. I've heard this story that prolonged exposure to HCG results in desensitization of Leydig cells. I don't think there's any actual evidence of that. Have you seen that clinically? Doesn't sound like anecdotally.
No, not at all. So no, in fact, my sperm counts maintained the entire time. And they were crappy the entire time until I put FSH into the mix. But that's if that exists, it's something that exists in a laboratory. And again, this is really important. Like when you read scientific literature as a layperson, you will see words that you think mean something, but don't actually mean what you think they mean. And that one of those words is significant, right? So when they say there was a significant increase in X, Y, or Z, like the layperson thinks significant equals a lot. That's not what their researchers mean. What they mean is statistically significant, right? I mean, they're talking about p-values, and they mean that this is very likely to have not occurred by chance. So that's what significant means. So this might be one of those situations where, like, if there's a study that says, yes, there is significant attenuation of the effect of HCG. Well, that doesn't mean you see it in clinical practice, right? You know, like a drop in your sperm count from 20 million to 18 million might be significant, right? Might be statistically significant, but it has no relevance, in terms of your ability to, to father a child, no clinical relevance. So that's kind of how I look at like HCG. I personally never saw any decline in sperm counts in.
Smash You on Your Head donated $2.
Pickle! It's time to go. That's what I thought.
Wow.
Let's go. Into the car, please.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Do you remember when you let that other person stream for you that you used to live with and she said she doesn't love Gummy to a comment who asked?
Don't want to hear about it.
Oh my gosh, here we go already. You ready to see you dad? You happy to see you dad? Oh my gosh, every time I come through the door from work, yo ass, here you go, look at you, I just got home. Oh my gosh, I just got home. Dad.
So fucking stupid. Why are you sending me trash? Yeah, you never know. You could run into him. Thanks for the donation, Smash You on Your Head. 21st Auditors, find it hard to work out sometimes because I think about how stupid and funny you are, how funny it is to troll you. Literally, like, start to lose my grip on the weight. I think you think about me a little too much. Thanks for the donation, dude.
The guys that I have helped with fertility have just never seen that. I just think it's one of those things that's like guys like to argue on forums. We'll talk about that. But in my day-to-day practice, it's like there's no relevance whatsoever.
Just a commentary on reading scientific literature. I think I mentioned before I speak Arabic, so I used to work as a translator and a linguist. I will tell you in my experience, most people don't even know what the words they're saying mean. And when you actually transcribe a conversation between two individuals, I would say like 50% of the conversation is just two separate monologues kind of intersecting at random points. So people are
neither you've got a tough job like trying to put those, try to translate that into something. Yeah, that's totally true.
Circumstance, there can be a temptation to be like, you sort of don't translate because you think you know what the intent of what the person was and you want to like rephrase it, but you can't do that. Yeah, it's interesting. That's sort of a psychological exercise. I'm glad to not do that anymore.
For sure.
We talked about estrogen and libido. Can you tell me a little bit about your own personal decision to take estradiol orally?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I always have to caveat this with, just because I'm doing this doesn't mean you should do it. I'm doing it for a very specific, hyper-focused reason. I'll explain exactly what that is. So one of the things that estradiol does that's extremely beneficial is it's beneficial for cardiovascular disease and vascular health. So there is a reason why women get less cardiovascular disease than men. Especially in the premenopausal time period. And then there's a reason why they eventually catch up to men after menopause when they lose their hormones. And that is because estradiol is extremely beneficial. Now, in my family, the men have a tendency to drop dead in their early 50s from MIs. So my dad had his first angioplasty at like 54 or 55. And he lived to be 90. And then eventually died of an MI, but not before having, I actually lost count of the number of stents this poor guy had and the number of bypasses. It's like he made it because of modern medicine only. He would have been a goner in his 50s. My grandfather had an MI at 50. He had 6 brothers, all of which died before the age of 50. So there's just Norwegian farmers out in the fields and they just croaked and nobody knew why. Well, now we know why. So I have very high levels that I inherited from my dad of something called lipoprotein A. So lipoprotein A, if you guys want to learn about that, I've got some videos on it. There's a lot of really good cardiology.
Oh, I gotta pee. Oh, sorry, Gum Gum. Oh, my little noodle. Mwah. I love you. I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back. Fish. Gum Gum stream. I don't even have to do anything. It's Gum Gum stream. Hey, Gum Gum. My goodness. Oh. My little baby. You're so beautiful. Oh. There we go. I'll do sit-ups later. Too fucking high. Probably hurt myself. Oh, man. Yeah, I definitely have to piss more with this cat. With his, he's heavy. He's got to be like 17 pounds now. He, like, sits on my bladder.
Content on it, but you can kind of think of it as a super atherogenic lipoprotein, kind of like LDL, but it's even worse. So if you have high levels of this stuff, you tend to have like 4 times the risk of stroke, 4 or 5 times the risk of MI, higher risks of blood clots, DVTs, PEs, and stuff like that. It's elevated in about 20% of the population worldwide. So I believe it. I've been screening people for it for like 15 years. So I like to say that I was ahead of the curve, but the major cardiology societies have now come out with a recommendation that everybody should be checked for it at least once. And the reason you need to be checked for it only once is because it's purely genetic. So it's this autosomal dominant trait. So, you get it checked. If it's normal, you're good. Like you're not going to suddenly get high Lp(a). You don't ever have to check it again. So my dad had a super smart cardiologist 20 years ago who checked him because my dad had normal lipid levels his whole life and had horrible coronary disease. And so it was a really bright cardiologist. I got to give him credit, especially 20 years ago. Nobody was thinking about this. Scratch his head and like, I wonder what's going on. He checked an Lp(a), and sure enough, like it was markedly elevated. And I was in med school at the time, or maybe I was early in my first residency. I don't remember. So I looked it up. I was like, oh shit, I should get checked. Yeah, sure enough, like my Lp(a) levels were quite high. So the textbook will tell you there is no good.
I definitely do not have the genetics for high APA little a. Both sides of my family live very long, and some of them have had like horribly fucking unhealthy lifestyles. So I think I'll be good. I have like some good longevity genes.
Good way to lower LP little a. Okay, there are some, like niacin lowers it, but niacin doesn't really seem to lower cardiovascular.
How would you hurt yourself from sit-ups? Well, you have to balance on the sit-up board, and it's kind of difficult to do. So if you're high and wobbly, yeah, it could be a problem.
Events, unfortunately. So I was taking niacin for a long time, hoping that it would do it. Statins don't lower it. In fact, they might raise it a tiny bit. So there's just like, there's no good medical therapy. It's not really affected by.
They should be coming out with medications to lower ApoA in the next few years.
Dietary changes, unlike, other parts of your lipid panel. So you're kind of screwed. Like you got it, like you just have to, tank your LDL, they say, and hope for the best. Well, it turns out that's not actually true, right? It turns out that cardiologists don't read endocrinology literature, and endocrinologists don't read as much cardiology as they should. But there are plenty of good studies showing that steroidal hormones, so androgens, testosterone and nandrolone, for example, and estradiol markedly can impact lipoprotein A. So long story short, I've been able to drop my lipoprotein A levels by about 40%, which is better than nothing. Like the PCSK9s, they're marketing PCSK9s now because they do lower LP little a. And they lower it by about 20% ish, depending on the person. So they're saying, oh, this is great, 20% reduction. Well, listen, I'm not on a PCSK9. I've tried to get on one. They're just so damn expensive. But I've been able to drop it with my combination of testosterone. And then I take 4 milligrams of oral estradiol a day. Okay. And my E2 level, my serum E2 levels are consistently above 100 picograms per ml. Okay. And I mean, so far, like I'm not crying when I see little kitty cats, and I don't have gynecomastia. I'm still like relatively lean for an old guy. And ironically, my libido is actually better, I think, on oral estradiol. So I started off at 1 milligram because this is kind of uncharted territory, right? This is not good literature on this. There is in women. We know in women, when you put them on HRT, their lipoprotein A goes down. But there's just like almost nothing in men. But, after putting in thousands of hours studying estradiol, like I was like, this is not going to be harmful, and I could certainly try it and see what happens. So I worked up from 1 milligram to 2, and then finally up to 4 milligrams. I continue to feel really good. I have none of these high E2 symptoms that people talk about, which I really want guys to internalize that. My levels are well over 100, right? Some of these guys freak out when they hit 40, and I've heard online influencers say, well, the reason you have erectile dysfunction is your E2 is 40, man. It's too high. You got to get that down. Well, listen, no, mine is deliberately well over 100, and there's no issues in that department whatsoever. So, but on my last lab draw, yeah, my LP little a is down 40%. Now, will that have a meaningful impact on my risk? I don't know. This is something, where maybe I'm just making the number get better on paper, but I'm not necessarily lowering my chance of having a clinical event, which is what really matters. There's no studies on it, but this is a personal decision. I don't call myself an expert in anything, but I have expertise in this field. And so for me, the risk benefit ratio, given my horrible family history and the fact that I'm basically now in the window where the men in my family drop dead, the risk benefit ratio for me favored a trial of estradiol. So I'm taking estradiol, and I feel great on it, and I've had no issues with 4 milligrams, that's quite a lot of oral estradiol, honestly. I'm actually a little surprised that I tolerate it as well as I do, but I've had no issues. I feel great on it. I don't prescribe it. I don't have any patients on this. I have some physician colleagues that take it as well. Guys who I respect, who know a lot about this sort of things. So that should tell you something. But I use myself as a good example of the fact that there's more to this. There's more to this how you feel on a daily basis and just your estradiol levels. If we were to follow what's on the bro forums, I should be a mess right now. Like I should just be a fat, blubbering, impotent mess. And I'm not. I feel pretty awesome. I went to jiu-jitsu class 2 days ago and rolled with a bunch of 25-year-old black belts who beat me up, but that's okay. You know, like I was still there, you know. It's not a lot of 52-year-olds that can look and do what I do.
So to ask the intentionally dumb question, if testosterone in the body converts to estradiol, and you also mentioned that testosterone can possibly impact a, why not just take more test? As opposed to,
as opposed to great question.
Estrogen, right? Like why not go upstream and just jack up your
Great
test?
question. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should. Maybe I should take more testosterone. So this gets back to, there's this idea that, you know, guys are afraid to take more testosterone because the more testosterone you have, the more estradiol you will make. And that is true to a certain extent, especially when levels are low. So if you're a biochemistry nerd, you know something that's called Michaelis-Menten kinetics. And I don't know if I can share this. Let me see if I can. This is like basic enzymatic biochemistry 101. So substrate concentration. So, and then reaction rate. So when you have very low let's say normal levels of testosterone, let's say under 500, you're going to get like fairly robust conversion to estradiol. So you'll go from.
Have you heard about how the RDI for vitamin D is too low and the risk of overdosing is extremely likely? It should be around 1,000 milligrams per 10 kilogram for most people. Haven't really looked into it. Could be the case. 1,000 milligram per 10 kilogram. Okay. So I should be taking like 11 IUs. Something like that.
From testosterone to estradiol pretty quickly. But, you know, the enzyme, there are rate limiting steps here. It can only churn out so much estradiol. So as the testosterone level increases, as you take more and more testosterone, it doesn't equate like 1-to-1. So you see that curve is quite steep, right? Initially. But then you get to the point where that enzyme becomes saturated and it starts to flatten out. So there comes a point where you can keep adding testosterone. You're not going to get more estradiol out the other end. Now, typically that's like these are like super physiologic levels, right? But many guys they live in a super physiologic world, right? They want to be super physiologic, and no judgment, like go ahead. But you can see based off of this curve that, you know, the difference between your estradiol level, let's say you're a bodybuilder and you're taking 500 milligrams a week. If you go to a gram a week, you're not going to double your estradiol levels.
Dodo Naturers, take a look at Destiny's last 2 videos. Do you think you're getting through to him? Liars, they're not your allies. Young Turks. Community revolts against Israel takes.
We need our refined Hassan Piker hatred for Tim Miller. Things to focus on. Building parallel institutions. Hassan Piker bad.
True.
Where did all 3
white phosphorus on civilian populations illegally?
I can't really compare.
He's very tough. I can't wait for this to age. Like, the most analogous situation is Jacinda Ardern, right, who took over late in New Zealand to get elected to be president, and she had a pretty good progressive presidency, did well under COVID. So if that's the case, I'll take that example.
Hey, so we all remember the Supreme Court's ruling on Trump's presidential immunity case. Well, get this. The leader of the Heritage Foundation think tank has said the second American...
Okay. What do we have?
You know, hey, we used executive power to reduce some student loan debt. I would have used executive power to also reduce medical debt. Right? Something, anything, bro. Literally, there's so many things you can say. There's so many things you can say. And she said none of those things. But guys, it gets worse. It gets worse.
It gets
Later on,
worse.
she comes back to this question. Listen to what she says.
It's bipartisan. Listen, I plan on having a Republican in my cabinet. You asked me, yes, right? You asked me what's the difference between Joe Biden and me. Well, that will be one of the differences. I'm going to have a Republican in my cabinet because I don't feel burdened by letting pride get in the way of a good idea.
Yeah.
Right?
So now, by the way, Joe Biden does have Republicans in his cabinet. I believe he has about 3 Republicans in his cabinet. One of them that comes to mind is DeJoy. And the Republicans have done a horrible job, by the way. The Republicans he has with what's his face? Jerome Powell, right? He's a Republican. There's a whole bunch that are on mainstream media, but the Daily Beast had a bomb.
Kyle's a retarded anti-Semitic commie. Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's almost like he knows deep down I'm right. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
They're only going to go up a minuscule amount. Now, if you go from 50 milligrams or 100 milligrams to 500, yeah, now you're on the steeper part of that curve, so you will get more estradiol. But the point is that it plateaus out, right? So, and there's a lot of reasons for this. Obviously, the enzyme can only work so fast. You only have so much of the enzyme. And then there are cofactors, right, that facilitate that reaction. Like aromatase, I think, relies a lot on NAD.
Whereas you have, I would imagine, high normal test with essentially superphysiological estradiol. So I guess my wonder is, and maybe you can't answer this, but like, is it possible that the negative effects people are experiencing are the interplay between elevated testosterone and elevated estradiol rather than just elevated estradiol, right?
Precisely. Yeah. So again, all of the studies which show negative effects.
Even after 6 years of not doing coke anymore, I still get these random as fuck strong cravings for it, even though it's not on my mind. You think this is permanent? I mean, the same thing happens with ice cream, dude. When you figure out something is nice and feels good, yeah, I mean, you're gonna crave it. Just, don't do coke. You can do a little bit of ice cream here and there, but I wouldn't do coke.
Associated with higher E2 levels, they're all in men who are not on testosterone. So it gets back to what we talked about earlier. If you take a group of men and you look at like what are the common characteristics of Gen Pop men not on TRT who run higher than average estradiol levels, well, many of those men have a lot of those problems that we talked about before, right? They're obese, they're insulin resistant, they're inflamed, they have other things going on. And so, of course, like they're going to have issues. And it's not the E2 that's the problem. It's these underlying issues that are driving the E2 to be high. So, let's put it this way. If I was not on testosterone and I was taking 4 milligrams of oral estradiol a day, we would be having a different conversation, right? So I would be transitioning. That's a transition dose, right?
Right, because that's the distinction. Is those individuals are probably seeking to suppress testosterone, right?
Precisely.
Right, and and I imagine 4 milligrams would probably be enough in a zero testosterone environment to prompt physical changes in your body, right?
Exactly. DHT directly antagonizes those feminizing effects. So again, so the treatment for gynecomastia, in my opinion, is not to lower E2, it's to raise DHT. So ironically, when you put men who have baseline, who have genuine gynecomastia, and I'm not talking about pseudo-gynecomastia, which is what most guys have, which is just fat tissue. You have a legitimate gynecomastia. It tends to get better when you put them on androgens. You put them on testosterone, even though their E2 actually kind of rises a little bit, their gynecomastia gets better. And it gets better because their testosterone and their DHT goes up, and it directly antagonizes receptors on that tissue. So yeah, if you've got gyno at baseline, you should probably take testosterone and not worry about the E2 level going up, because the odds are it's going to get better if you optimize your androgen levels. It may not, once you have it, it's not going to go away entirely necessarily, but it's very unlikely to get worse. And that's in the literature, that's what's out there. So yeah, if a guy wanted medical management from me, he doesn't want surgery for gynecomastia, I would not be giving them an AI. And I wouldn't even be giving them tamoxifen necessarily, even though we know like those things do work. Why don't I give you something that's going to be long-term healthy for you? Something that you can take for the next 40 years. And I feel good is going to actually potentially, if it doesn't prolong your life, it'll improve your quality of life. Tamoxifan's not going to do that. AIs are not going to do that. I don't want to put somebody on an AI for 40 years. That's the other thing, guys. Again, I really want guys to think long term. When you're on an HRT, like you really need to think over your entire lifespan, not the next week or two, which is human nature. Like people are short term thinkers, right? Do you really want to be on a AI, a chemotherapy drug for the next 40 years to keep your E2 in check? Or would you rather do these other, potentially life extending healthy interventions that will accomplish the same thing, which is get rid of these symptoms that you have, but will also prolong your life? And I know which one I would choose. I don't want to be on an AI for 40.
Smash you on your head. Don't tell her is Kenny smashed Larry on his head.
You're a fucking idiot. Yeah, let's see how out of shape I am, huh? You wanna fight me in a fucking cage and see how out of shape I am? I guess I don't have to be in great shape to fight you, would I, dipshit? I just have to smash you on your fucking head!
Yeah. Thanks for the donation, smash you on your head.
Years, with all the potential and downsides of that. But that's what guys sign up for. And I don't think they think enough about, well, most guys don't think enough about TRT before they get on it. They just want to get on it. But it also
amazing VG will thank you.
Also don't think, what's my life going to be like in 40 years, 30 years? What do I still want to be able to do at age 70 that I'm doing now? And they have to have a game plan for how you're going to get there. AI should not be part of your game plan, in my opinion.
It's just so interesting because when I think about having elevated estradiol levels, my concern is, this person may have too much water retention. That's going to drive up blood pressure, and there's going to be negative health consequences from that.
Right.
But again, I think that probably has more to do with the interplay between the testosterone and the estrogen rather than the estrogen
It does.
in and of itself.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a phenomenon, right? So I've had guys tell me this, and I've actually seen this in clinical practice back in the day when I did prescribe AIs. So guys that would come in with the cankles, and the water retention, if you give them an AI, it does tend to get better. So they're like, well, there you go. See, you're wrong. Like,
there you go.
Okay, well, why is that? So, I had to look this up, and it was not easy to find, but there is these transient responses that happen when you put androgens into a man, especially one who hasn't had androgens at good levels for a very long time. One of the things estradiol does is it makes your body more sensitive to something called antidiuretic hormone, which is made in the kidney. So what is antidiuretic hormone, right? That's the name. It's in the name, right? So it causes you to retain water. Now, again, the body has these very beautiful, sophisticated homeostatic mechanisms. So it detects this, and if you're just patient, what it will do is it will dial down the renin-angiotensin system as a way to compensate for that, and then you will lose that water. Okay, but guys freak out. They get on an AI, and then they short circuit that ADH response, and they lose the water. But now they're on an AI, and then they also psychologically think, if I stop this AI, all this water is going to come back, which is not the case. So when guys have water retention, which does happen, my approach, I don't put them on an AI. If I'm I either have them wait it out, because invariably it goes away, right? These homeostatic mechanisms, they kick in. You just got to be patient. But if it's really uncomfortable, like I can recall a handful of guys that I was like, damn, like, okay, like you've got some problems there, like getting into your shoes. I will use things like an ACE inhibitor or an angiotensin receptor blocker, and which actually has a ton of potential health benefits to them, even if they don't have hypertension. And it works like a charm. It just dials back that renin-angiotensin systems, brings their aldosterone levels in check, and the fluid just resolves itself. And there you go. Now we've solved your high E2 problem, and you still get to maintain all the benefits of a higher E2 level, but I've gotten rid of your problem because I've really addressed more of the root cause. And I've also put you on something that actually is sustainable for many decades and can be beneficial, which is like an ACE or an ARB. I know that's a different talk, but those are some of my favorite drugs because they do have a lot of good beneficial effects. So
It circles back to the point you made earlier about using the right tool for the right job, and an AI is just an incredibly blunt tool.
it's a blunt tool, and it's just not like it's not a sustainable thing. Taking in AI will not add one.
So maybe one final question related to that. Let's say I'm typical American male on a sort of standard HRT mill clinic protocol, right? So I'm on 250 megs a test twice a week, 0.5 milligrams of Arimidex twice a week, right? What should I do if I want to get off the Arimidex? Can I just stop taking it today? Like what's my 6-week and 6-month plan?
Yeah, you can. First of all, I would hope that during that time that you've been on that Arimidex, that you've been working on all of your important health parameters, your metabolic health, that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, an AI is not something that you necessarily need to wean off necessarily. Now, 250 milligrams, that's a big dose of testosterone. If you look at, you look at a bell curve, if the men that truly require that much testosterone on a weekly basis, those guys are very far to the right on that bell curve. I do know guys like that, and they, for various reasons, that's what's required to keep their levels at what's optimal for them. But if you're going to stop that AI, you may also want to, if you're going to revisit that part of your protocol, you may also want to revisit the dose. You want to revisit the dosing frequency. Are you injecting 250 milligrams once a week and blasting yourself? That's probably not the best. So, a reasonable thing to do for that person, I'm going to assume if they're metabolically healthy, would be to go to ideally daily injections. That's a big ask for some people. Some guys, they can do that for a little while, but almost everybody ends up, I would be happy.
Have you tried the blood pressure testers and Shoppers Drug Mart? I have. They're not particularly accurate, so they're not like fitted to your particular arm for one thing. And secondly, the arm cuff blood pressure monitors are going to be inaccurate if you have a substantial amount of muscle mass. It's just going to require more pressure to close the brachial artery to test your blood pressure. So if you're a bodybuilder or a power lifter or whatever, you're like a big guy with big arms, wrist cuffs are more accurate. So I test lower with wrist cuffs, whereas the general population tends to test higher with wrist cuffs. So yeah. My blood pressure used to be so fucking low, though. I'd even test really low with arm cuffs. I remember a few times I went to the doctor, and they were like, "Are you feeling okay? Your blood pressure is really low." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just the way it is." And I felt fine, but yeah. I used to have really fucking rock bottom, super stupid low blood pressure. When before I did steroids. On steroids, my blood pressure is just healthy, normal. It's averaged around 110/70. Are you on an ARB? Well, no. When I was natural, I wasn't on blood pressure meds. It was just naturally low. I went on telmisartan just for the just prophylactically. It does help prevent left ventricular hypertrophy. So I went on it for that reason. It didn't actually affect my blood pressure. It just stayed about 110/70. So I'm just on telmisartan.
If you could do it 3 times a week, spread it out a little bit, and then consider a dose reduction, and then stop the AI at that point. But yeah, you can stop it cold turkey. There's no literature that says you have to wean an AI off. You know, but guys, you know, I don't know. They feel like it's an antidepressant or it's like an opiate or something. They're going to go into withdrawal. Like, no, you're not going to withdraw from your AI. Honestly, your body, your blood vessels, your heart, your brain.
Yeah, I started doing steroids August 1st, 2025.
Well, thank you for coming off of that.
That's great, man. Well, thanks. This is awesome. Really appreciate you taking the
Yeah,
time.
no, this is totally fun. Yeah.
Everyone in the world knows about the atomic bombs that ended World War II. But there was a more
No, it's
deadly
not bad
event
for you.
just a few months beforehand. It was the firebombing of Tokyo, the most destructive air attack in human history, which was then followed up by the firebombing of much of the country. Yet few people outside of Japan are even aware of them. The newness of the nuclear bombs that destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki dominated the historical spotlight. But the horror of the firebombing of Japan was arguably even worse. The elephant in the room is that this bombing made a terrible kind of sense. When you look into the historical records and the military math, you realize it wasn't just random, irrational madness. Understanding that explains unpleasant facts about how wars for survival actually get fought. I'm Ken LaCourte. I do my best to unwrap topics like this as fairly and as honestly as I can. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to explain things in a nuanced way that I just think is too rare these days. We'll look at what happened on the deadliest night, and then how hidden war machines turned neighborhoods into targets. The horror became a viable option because for the air campaign against Japan, nothing else worked beforehand. Then we'll check out the invasion math behind alternatives, and finally, how winners write the rules to warfare. Let's start with one night in Tokyo. On the evening of March 9th, 1945, 334 B-29s launched from bases in the Mariana Islands for the deadliest night of bombings in human history. In preparation for the raid, the orders from Commanding General Curtis LeMay to his flight crews went completely against the norm. He told them to strip the bombers of almost everything: armor plates, gunners, ammunitions, gun turrets. They completely gutted the B-29 superfortresses so much that some crew members thought it was a suicide mission. It was all a gamble to increase the amount of bombs the planes could carry. And the payload was tons of M69 incendiary bombs. They're cluster bomblets packed with napalm, designed to punch through rooftops and ignite everything inside. And LeMay sent them in low and at night, the exact opposite of the normal high-altitude daylight bombing raids. The whole point was to get underneath Japan's defenses and saturate a target zone with fire. The first planes over Tokyo were pathfinders, dropping bombs in crossing patterns, essentially creating an...
Nope. No bad side effects. My blood pressure is actually better now. It used to be too low and I'd faint all the time. Now it's normal. Haven't had any fainting issues. Feel amazing. Mental health's better than ever. More energy. Getting more jacked. Look better. Feel better. So, everything's good.
An enormous fiery X that marked the target area for hundreds of bombers behind them. At the center of the X was the Shitamachi district, one of the most densely populated areas on Earth. About 1 million people were packed in 12 square miles, and virtually every building was made of wood. The Japanese government knew the vulnerability, and they'd tried to prepare for it. They'd organized civilians into over 140,000 neighborhood fire watch associations, bucket brigades that would fight fire with water. But napalm is essentially jellied gasoline. It clings to whatever it hits, and it burns hot. You can't just splash water on it and put it out. The fire department equipment essentially melted, with burning hoses and ruptured water mains. The entire civil defense system designed to protect those people was useless within minutes. And there was almost nowhere to hide. Tokyo had only 18 concrete bomb shelters for a city of 4.3 million people. Everyone else had nothing but shallow ditches dug next to their wooden homes. Gusting winds fanned the flames into a firestorm, which created its own wind-driven fire system. And temperature, they became as hot as a cremation oven. It was so hot that superheated vapors sometimes jumped ahead of the flames, killing people before the fire even reached them.
Warehouses lined up on both sides of the river were burning. Women's hair and men's clothes caught on fire.
The fires were visible 150 miles away, and pilots at the back of the formation said their cockpits glowed from the burning city below. By the numbers, the destruction was difficult to comprehend. 100,000 people dead, 250,000 buildings destroyed, about a quarter of the city. And this was just the first night. A few days later, they hit Nagoya, then Osaka, then Kobe. Then they went back and hit the major cities one more time and hitting Tokyo over and over again, burning over half of it. The US military essentially ran out of major cities to burn. Before the atomic bombs were dropped, the low-level firebombing raids had destroyed nearly half of Japan's largest urban centers. And some small cities, they were essentially burned to the ground. The numbers get fuzzy and contradictory, but the firebombing raids killed somewhere between 300 and 500,000 Japanese civilians, substantially more than both atomic bombs combined, and it left millions of people homeless. Despite that, Japan stayed in the fight for months. That amount of destruction is hard to process, but there were strategic reasons that led there, starting with what was hiding in the residential neighborhoods. They were dispersed factories. Hidden war machines in the midst of regular neighborhoods. Japanese manufacturing wasn't set up the way American or German manufacturing was, where war production was concentrated in large factories. Enemies then would do their best to destroy those factories, but Japan had built something different. Tens of thousands of small work.
What do you think is gonna happen in Iran? How many calories are you eating at the moment? You are looking quite thick and juicy.
I'm eating about 12 to 1,500 calories a day. And thank you, dude. As far as Iran, who knows? Like, you know, so far, Iran's military is pretty much being fucked over. A lot of their leadership's killed. Doesn't look like the U.S. is going to try to push for a complete regime change, but they do have a list of demands that they seem serious about being met. Long term, yeah, the IRGC is probably just going to get overthrown by the people of Iran. Thanks for the donation, though, Wolfdy.
Workshops tucked into residential neighborhoods. Most had fewer than 30 workers, and many had fewer than 10. A man in a shed might be machining engine components. His neighbor might be assembling fuses. Individual parts for airplanes, tanks, and munitions were produced in homes and backyards. Across the city. These small workshops, sometimes called shadow factories, fed component parts into larger assembly operations. You could flatten every major factory in Tokyo and still have production because the supplies from the neighborhoods would keep coming. The Americans wanted to both destroy the workshops and kill or displace the people who staffed them. And by 1945, the lines between civilians and combatants had gotten fuzzy. I mean, if your home is producing parts for a fighter plane, are you a civilian or part of the military? And overall, these raids, they worked. After the very first Tokyo raid, the city's industrial output dropped dramatically. And by summer, Japan's overall war production had dropped by nearly half. Not solely from the raids, but they were a major factor. This is a good time to mention, if I've messed up in any of the facts here, tell me in the comments and I'll address it in a pinned comment or in the description box below. I also have my sources and my research notes. But before we continue, I want to talk about today's sponsor, because studying history teaches us some hard lessons about money as well. Throughout history, we've seen what happens when governments face massive debts, especially during and after wars. They print more money. They need to cover their obligations, but when they do that, the value of what you've saved quietly erodes. That's one reason central banks are buying gold at rates we
yes,
haven't seen in
gold.
decades. 5052 today. So one of the big surprises I had in researching this is how carefully the United States had prepared for this bombing. In fact, they'd rehearsed it for years, systematically, even with help from Hollywood. In the spring of 1943, 2 years before the Tokyo raid, the Army built detailed reproductions of Japanese housing at the Dugway Proving Ground in the Utah desert. The principal architect was Antonin Raymond, a Czech-American who'd spent 18 years designing buildings in Japan. He knew Japanese residential construction better than almost any Westerner alive. The interiors were put together by Hollywood set designers from RKO Studios, the same authenticity division that built sets for war movies. They built the replica homes with tables, futons, radios, chests, hibachi stoves. There were even chopsticks on the tables. They rounded up all the tatami mats in San Francisco and Hawaii they could get their hands on, and they shipped them to Utah. They even confiscated a shipment of Russian spruce that was going from Siberia to Japan and used it to simulate Japanese cedar. Temperature, air humidity, and the moisture content of the materials were repeatedly tested. The replica structures were burned down and rebuilt at least 27 times to figure out how to burn them fastest. And they studied the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923, which killed 140,000 people in Tokyo, mostly from fires. U.S. officers even talked to insurance adjusters back then who had worked on that quake to better understand how to burn the city down again. It was 2 years of historical research and testing, literally a science program to optimize the bombings. Now let's look at events in a broader context, because the firebombings make some more sense when you understand it as the final plan after nothing else worked. The U.S. entered the Pacific Air War committed to what they called precision daylight bombing. The idea was straightforward and, on paper, humane. Fly high, find and hit the factory, and spare the neighborhood and the people around it. The United States had spent years doing mostly that in Europe. Other Allied air forces had attacked German cities at night when it's a lot safer for the pilots, but you can't hit small targets. The United States had technology and techniques that allowed them to be precise enough to hit a factory or a U-boat repair dock. They still lost a lot more pilots during the daytime raids, but they did so because of that higher accuracy. One big factor was the Norden bomb sight, a top-secret piece of equipment that was essentially a mechanical calculator that helped the bombardier to literally fly the plane, calculate for speed and wind, and then drop the bombs. It wasn't like today's weapons, but for the 1940s, it was groundbreaking. In Japan, that just didn't work at all. At high altitude, jet stream winds reached over 200 miles an hour, blowing bombs wildly off course. Cloud cover made accuracy even worse, and LeMay estimated that he only had 5 or 6 good bombing days per month. After almost 4 months of strikes, America hadn't destroyed a single priority target. And after 835 B-29 sorties had dropped thousands of tons of bombs on the Nakajimi Aircraft Company factory, it was still operating at essentially full capacity. At a certain point, the big brass needed a change. They replaced Hayward Hansel, who had been running the Bomber Command and was a true believer in precision bombing, and he had a reluctance towards firebombing. But the results? They just weren't coming in. And by January 1945, Hansel was replaced by Curtis LeMay. LeMay had zero moral hesitation, and he immediately switched to the tactics I described. The official Army Air Force history calls it a tactical revolution that produced results with dramatic abruptness. And another part of why this gamble worked is that Japan simply wasn't ready to stop it. Their air defenses were designed for high-altitude, daytime attacks, not low, slow bombers coming in at night. The military brass had pressure to win the war. They also had internal pressures as well. The B-29 program cost roughly $3 billion in 1940s dollars, the single most expensive weapon system of the entire war, even more than the Manhattan Project that built the atomic bomb. Generals wanted to justify not just that cost, but also the case for an independent Air Force separate from the Army. They made it clear to LeMay, produce results or be fired. The entire future of American air power depended on proving that strategic bombing could win wars. Not everyone agreed with what followed. As I mentioned, Hansel didn't just fail operationally, he had genuine moral reservations about burning cities. Brigadier General Bonner Fellers, who was on MacArthur's staff, he'd later call the firebombing one of the most ruthless and barbaric killings of non-combatants in all history. But it's important to remember that after the precision bombing has failed, these generals weren't just making decisions on whether to bomb a city or not. They were choosing from various tactics that they had in front of them, and they believed those alternatives would be far worse. So the cities burned, but the questions planners faced in early 1945 wasn't whether firebombing was horrible. The question was, how bad would invading mainland Japan actually be? This was the invasion math, and recent battles gave them some answers. Iwo Jima, an island of just 8 square miles, it saw nearly 7,000 Marines killed and another 19,000 wounded in 5 weeks of fighting. The 22,000-strong Japanese garrison fought almost to the last man. Only 216 Japanese prisoners surrendered. Okinawa was worse. Over 12,000 Americans killed or missing. More than 100,000 Japanese soldiers killed. What made these battles unlike anything on the Western Front was the Japanese code of honor. Surrender was a profound disgrace, worse than death. Soldiers fought until they were killed or they killed themselves. In fact, some commanders ordered mass suicide charges rather than capitulate. And it wasn't limited just to the military. On Okinawa, Japanese soldiers ordered thousands of civilians to kill themselves rather than be captured by the Americans. Families threw themselves off cliffs. Mothers killed their own children. And these were outlying islands. American planners expected to face even worse consequences if they had to invade the Japanese mainland. They estimated that between 500,000 and 1 million Americans would die, and that the Japanese dead, it would be 5 to 10 times higher than that. The American and Allied POWs in Japan, they were already slated to be murdered by the Japanese once the invasion started. Japan's own defense plan called for mobilizing the entire civilization. Boys were trained to strap satchel charges to their bodies and throw themselves under tanks. Women and girls were trained how to die resisting with bamboo spears. Not just to resist, but to resist and die. Now, there was a third option, which I should mention, which they called Operation Starvation. It was an aerial mining campaign, and it was kind of quietly strangling Japan's shipping lanes. Bombers dropped thousands of mines and they sank hundreds of ships, making it harder for Japan to bring in food, oil, and other material. But a blockade meant waiting for months, maybe even years. Every week it continued, it meant that more Allied soldiers would die in the Pacific. More Chinese civilians would suffer under Japanese occupation. More POWs and forced laborers dying across Southeast Asia. So the blockade might work, but if it did, it would have been slowly, and even then, probably still would have had a follow-up attack. So the math was brutal. Burn the cities, starve the country slowly, or invade and accept catastrophic losses. There was no peaceful way to victory. And even after the cities burned, Japan's military leadership still wasn't ready to surrender. They downplayed the devastation and called it American desperation. And all that, it reinforced American beliefs that nothing short of overwhelming, sustained destruction would force their surrender. So one thing about wars, the winners write the rules about it afterwards. So when a serious air campaign against Japan had begun, the bombing of civilians in the world was already becoming routine. Hitler was sending flying bombs and missiles to London, and the Allies had hit Hamburg, Dresden, and dozens of German cities. For American planners, applying the same logic to Japanese cities, that was adopting a method that was already in use in a place where it would be most effective. And the atomic bombs that were dropped 5 months later, they weren't a big moral leap from what was already happening in Tokyo. The reaction in the United States to the bombings certainly wasn't public horror. In fact, a December 1944 opinion poll found that 13% of the American public favored the extermination of all Japanese. Some of that was from the shock of Pearl Harbor, which killed 2,000 Americans and shook a largely isolationist country into war. And some of it was because the Japanese were ferocious. They were brutal warriors who were in many ways worse than the Nazis to civilians and surrendering soldiers. It was also just simply easier to dehumanize a race that looked, spoke, and acted so differently. And while Americans drew a line between German and Nazis, they didn't really make the same distinction between the Japanese military and the Japanese people. Whatever the mix, the result was a public that really just wasn't terribly concerned with what was happening in Tokyo. They wanted to win the war and get it over with. So none of that caused the decision to firebomb, but it explains why a democracy could burn 100,000 civilians in a single night and move on without a reckoning. And the people who ordered it knew they had to win the war. LeMay himself said that if the U.S. had lost the war, he would have been prosecuted as a war criminal, and other U.S. officials said the same. And during the Tokyo war crime trials after the war, Allied bombing was explicitly excluded from scrutiny. And then they wrote the rules for later wars. The 1949 Geneva Conventions explicitly banned the area bombing of civilian populations. Those rules were shaped by what happened in Tokyo and Dresden, but carefully avoided citing those cities by name. So it was one of the most destructive acts in human history, and outside of Japan, few people even questioned it, and few people now remember it. Inside Japan, I visited the Tokyo Air Raid Memorial, which was both sobering because you see the enormity of the bombings, but also the way that the Japanese treat it, without self-pity or score settling. They do it with a lot of dignity, as Japanese handle most hard things. I find Japan's history and culture fascinating. I've done a handful of videos.
Well, there you go. If anybody tells you about fucking bullshit about civilian infrastructure and all this and that, well, get them to fucking try to argue fire bombings in Tokyo were completely unjustified. Just fucking stupid. I am way too high and way too tired to keep streaming. I am fully cooked. So I think I'm gonna get to bed. Had a good sleep last night. I'll take advantage of being sleepy. And make up for some lost sleep over the last few days. Probably a really good idea. And I will see you all tomorrow. Big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs. I'm too high to do sit-ups, dude. I could literally fall. I'll do them tomorrow. Just remind me. But thanks for the donations, guys. Really appreciate it. And I will see you all tomorrow. Sweet dreams.